Proving Grounds and finish up this first Tier 2, then having both these teams meet in the Cup Finals.
Oh, it's just going to be an amazing best of 5. Hopefully it's a little bit longer than yesterday's series where we were over in 3 quick hours because of how strong these teams are. Zoos taking that 3-0 yesterday. Wildcard Red doing the exact same thing. The Zoos as well, they 3-0'd the Golden Guardians Academy in the quarterfinals too. They haven't even lost a single game in the playoffs so far. Both these teams come into this series with such momentum and such strength across the entire roster. So I can't wait to get into this series. We're already started with the draft.
Draft has begun, as you said, Smacks. And Cubby, we were all discussing as a 3-man kind of like certain champion priorities and strategies that both of these compositions, or both of these teams, I should say, have been highlighting and have been favoring over the course of Challenges Uprising Season 3. And Cubby, I'm kind of defer to you as we're seeing some bans already come out within the first game.
Yeah, so right off the bat, Jace, a very important pick for Wildcard Red, 3-0, both in the hands of Dokla and Bradley, respectively, as it's a powerful flex for them. And curious enough, actually seeing Zeus take away the Renekton, as that has been a champion that Tuesday is very strong on. Also, notably, Wildcard Red, Kaisa, 6-0 for Raheen in the playoffs, 9-0 in the tournament, and all these bans, Smacks, leaves up the best pick on this patch unanimously going to be Gwen in the hands of Zeus.
Not only number 1, Cubby, but number 2 and number 3 as well. Rumble and Udyr are still available. This is a very interesting beginning to this series, as we're already flying right through it. Both these teams know exactly what champions are still available, what champions are at the top of the tier. Rumble over there going to be picked up by Winston. Likely going to be a Lucian in the mid lane for Bradley as well. Ooh, and it's going to be Varus bot for Raheen too.
We're just kind of flying through champs right now, Cubby. I know that this Rumble being answered in is a powerhouse jungle pick for Wildcard, but we've seen Zeus Gaming, they've opted into some picks specifically to answer the Rumble. We'll have to see if they're going to opt in for now, but looks like they're going to save the jungle counter pick for the next phase.
Yeah, and Tuesday, this Orianna, I feel like Tuesday as a player throughout Challengers Uprising has really shown his worth and shown his growth over the offseason, as of course the core of Solafide is participating in this match, whereas they didn't participate in Proving Grounds. I remember the tragedy that happened. They ended up dropping out of that tournament. Tuesday being a part of that, one of the strongest mid laners that we have. But he was known for his mage play and his consistency in the mid lane. He still has that with his Orianna, his most play that is 4-0, but he's been showing more of the AD picks like the Lucian, the Sett, the Tristana, the Yone that's been so good for him. But he is returning to comfort here in game 1, and will need to try and navigate this Rumble Lucian mid-jungle duo that is trying to throw a wrench in the plans of Zeus, as Tuesday and Griffin have been the most powerful mid-jungle duo throughout the tournament.
Tuesday is not the only member of that Solafide team in this series, though. Winston and Dokla also coming from that squad, and Winston in particular is going to be on his signature Rumble. He has been tearing up the Rift on this pick in the playoffs and before that as well. He looks like a completely new player from the previous split. He looks like one of the best players on his team here, and I am super excited to see him on this pick, but we still don't know what Griffin is going to be picking into it. We're saving that pick for later. It's not going to be Xin Zhao, though. That's been banned. They do get one more jungle ban for Wildcard.
Yeah, off of what Smacks was saying about Winston's Rumble, he is 6-1 with 5.6 KDA in this tournament. Has been a very powerful pick for Wildcard Red, and for both teams, as Griffin has also undefeated on the Rumble in 6 games. And curious enough, I think that Wildcard Red, they have to take away the Udyr here. I would be surprised if it was left up for the side of Zeus, but keep in mind what was teased in League of Legends, right? Zeus like to opt for very short-range melee compositions that Wildcard might look to counter. They've left up that Udyr, expecting Griffin to take that, and I'm curious to see what their answer is, because that is a very appropriate leave for them in pick ban.
Looking at this last ban, ladies and gentlemen, and the hype of this match is just causing my camera to freeze up. So apparently,
you got some serious stank face in that last freeze.
It's not like intentional. That's all I want to make sure we're clear on. But the Samira being taken away from Arrow. Now, I do want to point that there were a couple of Draven bans thrown towards his way in previous series, but the Aphelios, something that was instrumental in their win against Resolve last night.
And if you see me freaking out the camera, this is also an appropriate leave for Zeus, because it is Arrow's most played in this tournament. 7 plays. He is 7-0 with an 11.4 KDA, and he's up 850 gold at 10 minutes. His laning on this champion has been fantastic throughout the tournament, but Zeus feel like with the Orianna and the Varus, they can zone out the Aphelios and outrange him as the game goes on. They have left this pick up on purpose. We saw Resolve do this yesterday, leaving up the Hecarim, the Nautilus, the Seraphine, thinking they were able to deal with it. A few mis-executions for Resolve forced them to drop that game 1 and the games to follow. And this Aphelios has been terrifying for Arrow. It's a champion. I know that talking with their manager, Myra, said you cannot give Arrow Aphelios or else you will feel the punishment. Zeus making the choice to give it to him game 1. We're going to have to see if they have a game plan to beat it.
Oh man, Cubby, Resolve certainly felt the punishment against his Aphelios in the first few games of yesterday. The laning stats were off the charts. He was up over 1,000 gold in both of the Aphelios games, just off of lane alone, sweeping through the turret platings all throughout. This time, he will have to go up against the Rel Varus lane that Raheen and Rhino are going to be piloting here, but with the way that they handled yesterday's series against Array and Winter, I gotta favor Arrow in this one, man. That Aphelios is spooky.
Okay, wait a minute. So, something that we were kind of preluding to, not too much, but when you're getting into the history of these players, something that you were talking a lot about and getting excited for is that this is a rematch between former Octa Gaming top laners for Alorm and Dokla, and we have some spicy picks that have just been locked into the top lane. The counter pick of the Akali for Dokla here, Smacks. For me, that's got to be one of the biggest matchups we're looking for in game 1. Oh yeah.
Akali is one of the champions that can stay in the range of Gwen's zone of just invincibility, as it seems, as Akali really only can be in that melee range, so lots of that damage cannot be mitigated by Gwen, and the assassination potential does not stop in the lane either. It's going to be really good against those immobile, squishy members of the Orianna and the Varus later.
And we're going to have to see as this game carries on. If I feel like Wildcard Red, they have to win early, right? They have this Rumble, Lucian, Nautilus combo that we've seen played out so well with so many comps, but as the game goes on, we've also seen what Alorm can do in the side lane on Gwen, the most powerful pick in this patch. Now, there is an answer for it early in the Akali, but as the game goes on, Gwen is a terror, and we're going to have to see if Gwen makes it happen here.
Game 1, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be coming in just a few moments here. But another thing that when we wanted to establish going into this series is between these two teams as boom, bam, we're on the rift, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so looking at Arrow and Daption in their series last night against Resolved, it was a huge turn of events, being able to turn around a lot of the games that potentially could have gone Resolve's way. We're already seeing them being super aggressive with Bradley, and actually, Cubby, we got a little bit of a swap here.
Yes, Dokla taking the Lucian. We thought it'd be the Akali, as that is the lane counter to Gwen that we've seen, but instead it's Bradley, and this is a champion that he has been known for with his time in Bethany, a team that did take top 8 in CLaw. He was one of the players that really pushed them to making that top 8 and actually qualifying in that top 4, as they did win their first round matchup against the University of Toronto in that round of 8. Bradley on the Akali, champion that he is known for, is actually going to be piloting that one instead of Dokla. Once again, highlighting the flexibility that Wildcard Red have shown between their solo laners this split.
The melee champion pool of Bradley being put to good use in this game does perhaps provide Wildcard Red a little bit less priority in this mid lane, but we will have to see how Bradley does play on this pick. I'm a little bit concerned for Zeus, though, about one thing in particular, and that is that their top side deals almost exclusively magic damage, Cubby.
Yes, with the Gwen, the Udyr, and the Orianna, it is possible for Wildcard Red to opt for very heavy magic resist. That's a good point in the draft, but they still feel like with the Gwen, the Orianna, this is comfort for them, and definitely something that Tuesday has proven that he can carry games on time and time again. I do want to hit on the jungle pathing real quick, as both junglers are opting for full clears on their bot side, and we could see early action at that top lane Crab unless Rumble decides to change up his path to get to the bot lane.
this point in time. 3 minutes have passed. The Scuttle Crabs will be coming up in just a few seconds here. And we're already seeing Raheem and Rhino taking this early action to get some proactive vision into the bottom side of the jungle. Even though that Winston is already on the other side of the map, they'll be able to get some vision, scouting out the next spawn of the next iteration of camps here.
Winston skipped the Krugs. He's going to be in the river right now. Might be a scuffle for the Scuttle.
Slams it down, but
Both
he's now
mid-laners.
giving the shield away over to Winston. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to compete for it now.
Yeah, Dokla did get lane priority with that push, so he is able to roam. That would have been a 3v2, so Griffin will have to seed that on the Udyr and move his way towards bottom, where it looks like Winston is peeling down towards that bot lane river. Wildcard have a wave. Griffin has to be very quick about this crab. Wildcard might go for the collapse. They're sending 4.
I think
He's going to have to flash over this wall. Oh,
He's
wait.
sticking it. What a baller.
You don't know. They're...
The stealth mission is a success. He's out.
Be very quiet. We're hunting bear, phoenix, tiger, rabbit. Yeah. Anyway,
Turtle
that
is the
reference.
other stance. Cubby, come on.
Okay, you know what? That's why we have you here, Smacks. That's you got it all covered here. We were covering all the bases.
You're a bear. You're supposed to know your fellow animals in the kingdom, bro.
Well,
I got
what
the
would
one
rabbit
right. I
stance
got the
even
one
do?
right.
Oh boy. Well, we know what Bear Stance does, and he's coming down to this bot lane. We got some wards out, but Rhino's going for the engage.
Yeah, Griffin is coming on his way back into the bottom lane. They want to punish Arrow. They force both of his summoners. Daption is going to have to burn the flash, but he doesn't have another defensive one, and that's first blood over for Zeus.
Good play coming out, punishing the wave state of Wildcard Red, not respecting the fact that Udyr was on that side of the map. Curious to see if Rhino looks for more. Looks like he isn't going to, and instead, Griffin is helping him shove out the wave as they want to get a clean reset for the bot lane Azus that are off to a hot start. 1 kill, first blood going over to Raheem.
Feels like it might have just been a tier 2 boots diff right there for Griffin. He was able to reach the bottom lane a little bit quicker than Winston. Goes for that early play, and the ward's just not enough. Udyr is just so fast. Does lose out on the Raptors, though. It does look like Winston is going to get a successful invade off with the help of Daption as his bodyguard. It's also going to be a mid, or little pressure gank here. All right.
It's a prank.
Yeah.
It's a massive freeze that Bradley has set up, and Winston stopping by there ensures that he's able to maintain it, puts pressure on Tuesday. Now it's forcing him to get the teleport down. He does have Rhino in the wings. Make sure that he can push it in.
Oh.
Yeah, you can see that when that Gwen W goes down in the matchup against Lucian, that is the opener that Dokla can use to try and really pressure this champion, as he has opened up a small CS lead in that top lane. And curious to see if Griffin is going to help out as Dokla. He does not have ultimate and does have that wave shoved out, but it seems like Alorum's chunked enough where he's not going to help out his team. And Winston actually is hovering to make sure that Dokla is able to pressure yet another wave to get in that is properly scouted out by the scrying orb that Griffin just used. And we should have resets and a handshake on the map. I'm curious to see it with the dragon not going down immediately. If that stays up, there could be a trade across the map for Rift Herald and Dragon. And I feel like with the pressure that Dokla is exerting right now, that could be very good for Wildcard Red if they're able to take the Dragon. Because keep in mind, we need to see them get an early lead. We need to see them utilize this mid-jungle priority they have with the Rumble to pressure now, or else we feel like they get outscaled as the game goes on.
Early lead's already there, top lane right now. Cubby, you can see Dokla has got that CS advantage. Wait. Bradley doesn't quite have enough damage in the mid lane, but still putting a lot of pressure down on both of these solo lanes for Wildcard Red. It's going to be worth it. It's a trade of ultimates.
Taking that 7 minutes, some stock here into the point of the game. First Dragon is still up on the table. It is Mountain, so either we're going to be seeing an Infernal Cloud or Ocean Soul this game here. Now, what I want to see is, as Raheem and Rhino have consistently been able to get this shove in thanks to this lane, we actually now see the makings of potentially a... Oh, what's going on here?
Daption is clearing out a control ward, and it seems like Zeus, they are first in the river, could be looking for a setup or just looking to help Tuesday escort this wave into Crash yet again. Maybe preying off the over-aggression from Bradley, but that is not going to be the case, as both the jungle support duo of Zeus are going to be moving into this river, where Winston is just going for a full clear, and it seems like no play is available on the bot side.
Yeah. Oh, Tuesday also recalled as well, so they can't quite go for the Dragon. They do not want to risk a potential difference in the mid-champion availability there, as Bradley, even without that ultimate, still going to have a lot of extra damage and sticking power with the stealth. Is just going to go back to business as usual, where we continue to see both junglers farming up, waiting for their opportunity.
Still, no one is going for this first dragon. I would imagine that with all the lane pressure that Raheen and Rhino have been able to build up, pushing in, knowing that this is the lethality Vars, going for the arrows, the pokes, as you look at top lane, though. Dokla just having his way with Alarm, does have the flash if he needs to be able to get out of the last second, does have to use it, and Dokla now pushing Alarm out of this lane.
Yeah, for Alorum there, you can't use the extra ultimates on Gwen unless you actually attack something in between them. So playing outside of the range for Dokla is going to be to his benefit greatly there. It does not give Alorum the extra utility or the healing from the ult.
And with this swap, with that top lane pressure, you can see Wildcard Red shifting their bot lane to the top side to secure this first Rift Herald. Is the play that I wanted to see them make, but it seems like Zeus might be here to try and answer.
Bradley already here into the river, as you might have a potential freeze frame as we're getting ready for a climactic moment in the making here, as we're just going over multiple freeze frames at the moment. So this is where things can get really dicey and really scary. This is going to be potentially the biggest fight in the first 15 minutes of the game, fighting over the Rift Herald here. We can take moments and stocks in just the entire map right now, as we have no summoners from Dokla, no TP from Bradley, which is why he's already rotating over, but he has perfect execution. He still has flash as well. Griffin has flash. Alarm doesn't have any sums at all. And now we're going to take this moment and enjoy this panoramic view of Summoner's Rift, ladies and gentlemen. Look how beautiful Runeterra is.
All those health bars. Oh, yeah. That is a lot of health bars.
I'm getting word that we have quite the storm on the Rift, actually off the Rift as well. Yeah, as one of our producers, going into this, he was like, you know, if a tree hits me today, the show must go on. I'm hoping that the tree didn't hit him, but we're send prayers in the chat for Doc, as at least we get a nice cinematic view of the Rift, and honestly appropriate considering that we are building up the tension for a match that, keep in mind, this is the first team to qualify for Proving Grounds, the winner of this match, as that is a big prize on the line, as they wouldn't even have to compete in the other tier 2s.
We're back!
The storm has subsided. We're back!
All that tension built for nothing. They just secede control of the Rift Herald. Come on, man!
Wildcard are not walking away, though. They're going right back onto it. It is warded by Zeus, so they are privy to this information, but
they can't trade.
Griffin is going to be recalling. They can't contest this at all. Can't even go for the Drake instead.
Yeah, they can't trade. Griffin, he was in the top side, right, helping shadow Alorum, and they were scared of a dive. Instead, Wildcard Red, they see that. They're like, fine, we're just going to take the Rift Herald for free. There will be bot priority granted to Wildcard Red to get a few plates onto Raheen, hopefully, but Griffin went for the reset as Wildcard Red, that bot lane now peeling back down to their lane in the bottom. So there is no chance to evenly trade objectives for the Dragon. Overall, a win for Wildcard Red, and we're going to have to see how they use Shelly.
All starts with Dokla in this lane as well. Both of his uses of the Lucian ultimate have been spot on onto Alarm, forcing him to take less than optimal recalls. You can see that CS lead is continuing to grow. It's almost at 30 at the 10-minute mark, just off of Dokla's successes alone. Winston hasn't even needed to go up there.
And this is something that we've seen in the tournament as well. Dokla averaging a 502 goal differential at the 10-minute mark in the playoffs. That is first among all players in the Cup playoffs, with his waning prowess, the fact that they have been shifting and flexing those picks between him and Bradley to make sure that Dokla always feels like he has a comfortable matchup, going up against his former Optic teammate, getting the best of him in the lane for this one. Gwen obviously does scale, so gonna have to see if Alorum can hit that mark appropriate for the Scissors to overwhelm the double guns of Lucian.
When we take a look at the first few minutes of this game and how it has led into the first Rift Herald being taken off the table, you said it before, Dokla being so far the only lane that is winning in terms of gold and XP at the moment, even though Bradley, down in CS, has been getting lane priority over Tuesday, just threatening lethal and pushing him back, which has allowed them some control over this top side of the map. But now we're going to see, as we get into the 12-minute mark, closer to that 15, First item power spikes. Mythics will be completed here as Winston
Spotted.
gets spotted out here by Griffin.
And those first item mythics, Rafa, pretty significant for both of these teams, right? Because that is when Rumble really hits that big spike, completing that first mythic, whatever Winston decides to go for on the Rumble. We've seen a few different builds. As I say this Rift Herald being dropped, Griffin might be here to try and respond against Alorum.
Question is...
Gonna be a Rift Herald dropped. Staying safe.
Yep. In my head, I was going to see if Wildcard Red, they were going to try to bait Wildcard Red into staying for a dive, but Griffin might just press the NOS button right here. Doesn't have Ghost, but he's just got the flash. Ooh. Bear slap
Rel's
on
here.
Dokla, and then he is gone.
And that's the Rhino diff.
Right,
that's the Rhino diff. The fact that he was able to make that roam, they saw that play. It was, they knew it was coming from Wildcard Red. They showed their hand early, and Zeus, they were able to answer by bringing the Rhino up into a different habitat to solve how things go in that top lane. The Rel was the reason they were able to go for that play, and they neutralized the Rift Herald. Yet another kill going over, and a shutdown on Dokla.
Yeah, it's just a massive shutdown there as well. This is the one member, like Rafa said, that is ahead in gold. You can see it on the bottom of your screen right there. If Dokla is ahead, then Wildcard are feeling good about this game in this early game state. But when he dies, the team in the early game kind of dies with him. You can see across the rift, there's a big CS lead in the mid lane for Tuesday. Raheen is holding his own while Rhino's roaming around because of that range advantage with the Varus. So for Zeus, getting that kill and getting that play up on top side means the world for this team.
For Wildcard Red, you know, this so far kind of the biggest lead that they had being slightly decelerated as Zeus being able to recognize. Oh, something else we need to recognize. Oh, God. Doc is in the middle of a giant storm right now, which is why we had that beautiful panoramic freeze over on the top side of the map.
We're just gonna
minutes ago.
Yeah, I didn't know that Doc was short for Doc
like that. Yeah. All right. Well, best of luck to Doc. Pragues and prayers in the chat for our wonderful producer, as of course our production team here at Challengers Uprising. Always pushing the limits for us, and we will be testing that out as the day goes on. Very much appreciate the work of Joe, Sam, Lauren, and of course Doc as well, who also does all the graphics for the league. But back onto the Rift, Dokla, he is still trying to pick up this first brick in the top lane, and you can see Zeus, they do not want to give away this gold for free. Both Griffin and Tuesday responding as we might have another skirmish, but they're going to seed, and the power of the Rumble early pushing them away. It's enough in the 2v3.
It is going to be Dokla missing out on all of the platings up in the top lane, but you can see just how low that turret is. You can see that it will likely still be first turret eventually, just missing out on 160 gold. But meanwhile, bot lane, nice hook.
Cleanse gets popped by Arrow. Being able to flash. Oh my God! Rhino Magnet Storm into the repel. Oh my goodness! Raheen and Rhino. These two have been ramping up the entire playoff series, and they are turning it up against the best bot lane in right now.
And this was the big difference for Zeus after a loss to C9 Amateur. In that series, Raheen and Rhino had a tough time against Wixie and Breezy, but since then, it was their wake-up call. They have been absolutely fantastic. It's been Raheen on the Kai'Sa every single game since that loss, but now on the Varus, showing his prowess as well. Speaking of that, now has a finished Prowler's Claw, and this is a huge spike for Varus to hit early because Poke Varus is so oppressive at this point of the game, if ahead, and Raheen is ahead at 3-0 as we see another look at the combo. Smacks, a Rel enthusiast ourselves, freaking out at how good Rhino played that fight.
If you've been paying attention to Rhino in this tournament, then you already know that his mechanics have been a highlight reel all across. But on the other side of the rift, Bradley, he needs to run away. He's going to make it out. I'm going to talk about Rhino some more, man, because if you didn't see his play against Golden Guardians on set in Game 3, go back and watch it right now, because this guy's been smurfing it in the entire tournament. All 3 weeks of it. It has been insane, and it's not stopping in this finals.
And this is an interesting shift for Zeus, because this is actually Rhino's first game of Rel in the tournament. They've been seeding Rel because Rhino's Gragas is the counter pick. No other support's really playing that, but he plays it to perfection. This time, seeing the Nautilus says, this is the pick that I want to take, that we want to take for the game. And man, is it popping off already in that bot lane, as that was a huge engage, a huge turn for Zeus, who now pull themselves into the gold lead with a scaling composition.
talking to Kelly X, the manager for Zeus Gaming, one of the biggest things that was super important for him as they are going for another play onto Arrow,
No
slash
sums.
stun. It's just that easy, folks. I mean, between Raheen and Rhino, they have been constantly talking about how these two have been passed up by LCS-affiliated amateur teams or Pocket Rhino coming from Team Liquid Academy as well, and now they're proving why they deserve to not be slept on.
And what better way to do it than against a former LCS MVP who has been having a fantastic tournament in Arrow, who is getting shut down. We said that they were leaving the Aphelios up for a reason, that they must have had something prepped for because it is his most play. They certainly have, and it seems to be paying dividends for Zeus.
The only bad side is that it did ruin Rhino's perfect kill participation. He's now down one, so that's a little bit sad for Rhino, but man, Raheen really smurfing it right there, even using the Prowler's Claw tech through the minion. But Tuesday,
Wildcard Red trying to turn things around. Shockwave's going to force Dokla's flash in response. It was a nice attempt from Wildcard Red, but already Zeus are there ready for the backup here.
And an intelligent flash as well by Dokla, who most certainly would have been taken down if he wasn't able to get out of that shockwave from Tuesday. As we have a little bit of a breather, it doesn't look like Zeus are going to opt to contest this Rift Herald as Tuesday just TP down into the bottom lane. Wildcard Red need to use this to try and pressure that mid wave, but because of that matchup, because of how Tuesday's been playing it, as a 25 CS lead on the Akali, and that mid turret, I don't think anyone's even gotten an auto attack down on it. It is full health as Tuesday. That's going to make it really tough for Wildcard Red to break that mid turret, and because of that, because it will keep Zeus control in the mid wave, it opens up Varus, his angles to poke out Wildcard Red and be the oppressive factor that we expect poke Varus to be at this point of the game.
the turret is not at full health for lack of trying, though, for Wildcard. You can see that Dokla was really trying to leave a mark in that mid lane, but it did end up leaving a little bit of a lapse in the bot lane as well. You can see that Dokla had to recall, had to go right on back. He's pushing out that way, but you can see just going right back through to mid. He wants to use that advantage to fight.
Well, thankfully, Hollow Mist is a nice ability, but beautiful patience from Winston, though. Waiting out the Hollow Mist, fires down the Equalizer, lays down the red carpet of death.
They're on the board.
And yeah, they are on the board, but they might have to see that mid turret forward. Here goes Lino.
Oh, Magnet Storm, Shockwave, beautiful combos once again from Zeus. It allows them to take the mid turret.
Dokla's dead.
He's gonna, oh my gosh, guys. Relax. I know this is game one, but man, give him a chance to breathe, because Wildcard Red, slowly and slowly, as the game has been going on, the early game was a little bit off in terms of just the pacing, but now we're seeing Zeus really accelerate the tempo here, Smacks.
Yeah, and just a reminder, as we watch this replay, this next fight is without Alarm. This is just a Rhino Tuesday pick off onto Arrow. And they killed Dokla as well, just his collateral damage. Watch Raheen's arrows here. Wait for it. Wait for it. And there it is. Through the dash, through the Gale Force, still finds its mark with the arrow. Beautiful stuff from Zeus. They take their kill count up to 7.
And I've been critical of Raheen and his laning phase in the past, and it's so good to watch him shore up that early game, because the big highlights of Raheen and his play is that we've always known he's a fantastic team fighter. His positioning is so naturally good, and how he sees fights is different than other marksmen. The fact that he's been able to secure this lead against Arrow Daption, who have been a fantastic bot lane in this tournament, great to see the growth of Raheen. But I do want to take a reset, because we are 25 seconds out from Dragon, that both teams look to be wanting to contest. Zeus are going to have river control, and that combo between Rhino Tuesday are going to be so key. They have to counter the combo between this.
Teleport coming in, Equalizer already laid down. Pocket Rhino using the Magnet Storm to get out. Shockwave lands only onto Daption, though. Dokla already taken Rhino out of the fight, and Wildcard Red have found an advantageous one at that one. Alarm trying to buy as much time as he can, but he will get shut down along with Raheen. Massive double picked up for Dokla.
Everything was just used onto Daption. The Rel ultimate was used to try to disengage, and then the follow-up from Tuesday with the Shockwave, again, just on this Nautilus, and it's all on top of this Equalizer too. Winston still smurfing it on this Rumble. Man, Wildcard, they may have just found their way back into this game with this fight.
it gets them Baron. They were able to peel off because they wiped it so successfully. And I also want to credit Bradley, who, yes, the equalizer did split up Zeus a little bit, but Bradley was able to find the right members to take them down to open up that advantage, as they will happily trade Baron for the Ocean Dragon that goes over to Zeus' wildcard, take the gold lead back in this game.
I mean, Zeus Gaming, this is only the second dragon of the game for them, so Wildcard Red still have plenty of time. They have another solid 10 minutes before Zeus threaten Ocean Soul. With this Baron, they are at their strongest point in the game, all on mythic items. Arguably, Arrow's probably the only one that's slightly behind, but when you have an Akali, a Rumble, and Lucian who are at their strongest points in the game, this is where you start to make major structure damage.
Akali and Lucian are the big deals right now, Rafa, because we can see Akali up in that top side for Bradley, Dokla down bot. They want to set up this 1-3-1 and show that they are the stronger solo laners in this point of the game with the Baron. They're going to be pushing all these lanes down. You can see that Rift Herald was just dropped down to help Dokla in the bottom lane too, and that's not going to stop Wildcard from attempting to siege down mid as well. They're looking to take the full court press.
Tuesday was able to push a wave out in the top lane, and if you are Zeus, keep in mind, you can take a deep breath. Yes, this Baron power play is going to be very good for the side of Wildcard. They have a gold lead again, a significant one at that now, shifting that to 3K as they look to knock down more structures to get more gold into their pockets. But Zeus, we still like the scaling of their comp. They were not able to wombo with the Rel Orianna there, but we have seen what they can do if they're able to sync up those abilities. So let's keep our eyes out for Rhino and Tuesday, see if they're able to get in sync again.
Even in the pitch
is clean. They take that full turret. I don't think they're going to go for the inhibitor quite yet. Just going to back away and help out Bradley in the mid lane.
Even in the picture-in-picture you saw as we go to the main screen now, Bradley was dealing with Tuesday in the mid lane. Still hasn't been able to take down, but he's going to go in a 1v2 on Tuesday. Does he have the damage enough for this? Shockwave's going to buy a lot of time, and two members already pressed on him down. Making sure that Bradley doesn't get out. Shut down goes over to Tuesday. Winston and Dokla, though, are going to continue making the siege.
And I know that Wildcard are going to knock down this mid lane turret, and I do want to talk real quick about Bradley into Tuesday, because we felt like this was going to be a challenge for Bradley, an opportunity for him to step up. And I know that talking with him, said the big difference on being in Wildcard Red, besides being in Bethany, was just the fact that he's surrounded by experience. Keep in mind, this new talented mechanical player gets to practice with Arrow every single day. This guy is an LCK champion and the LCS MVP. He said that's really been the strides that he's taken. He expects for the matchup to be close to Tuesday, but I must say, Tuesday, as always, is the consistent shining light of the team of Zeus. He's been having a phenomenal first game, so consistent and ahead in his lane. 275 CS at the 24-minute mark. That is crazy.
Just barely keeping up that gold, even past that Baron, which is about to expire as well. We did get to see Wildcard Red tear open the map with that. They're up 2K at this time, but it's going to take a lot more than that to take down Zeus, who did still have that early game advantage, and they do still have a lot of scaling packed in.
One other thing that I wanted to kind of chirp in on when you were talking about Bradley and Arrow, Cubby, is when I got a chance to talk with Morgan right before the game, the beautiful thing about this this team is that there's not ego between players. Even though you have varying experience levels between all of them, you have collegiate for Bradley, and then obviously talking about Arrow being an international player from LCK. These two players have the confidence and trust each other to still give each other notes to say, hey, you know what? You can do this better. Or, hey, this is what you can improve on. And being able to have that trust between players, especially on a team when you're coming from a collegiate scene versus someone as veteran as Arrow, it allows the team to bond even further and become a stronger team overall.
All right, taking a step back, we now have a minute until this Ocean Dragon. Zeus, if they're able to secure it, of course, will be sole point. And the big concern for me is the fact that Gwen is now getting to the point where she is a problem, right? It hasn't finished the Zhonya's Hourglass yet, but if Alorum decides to base, should have the gold to get that, and if not that, at least a stopwatch. Speaking of stopwatches, we do have one for Tuesday and Raheen. We have Zhonya's for Bradley and Winston. So we're going to have to see how they're able to use those abilities to try and outplay the engage that Zeus are looking to go for. Let's look out for really looking at the support combos. Can Rhino sync up with Tuesday, and can Daption sync up with Winston to start a fight off where it is wiped in their favor, that the rest of the fight doesn't even matter because of how powerful those ultimates can be if used correctly together?
We're going to need to see when Bradley's death cap does come online, though, because that's going to be a really big power spike to accomplishing the burst solo kills that we saw attempted onto Tuesday in the mid lane. It was very close to landing that kill, but there's just a little bit too much crowd control, a little bit too much durability in the way. Perhaps that death cap can be the spear that breaks through that shield, as we're going to be starting up on this dragon. Bradley does have teleport. Let's see if they can make this happen.
See Tokla wrapping around on the backside. Bradley still has TP. He's going to be popping it now. They have the potential of a flank right now. They have them cut off. Winston with an equalizer could do massive damage in here. And we're already getting into the thick of the fight. Bradley lands in perfect execution. Rhino trying to buy as much time as he can with that at Magnet Storm. But Wildcard Red will wipe the floor with Zeus Gaming. They don't even need the dragon because they're taking all the kills. They can just run it down through bottom lane.
That's game. Wildcard Red, they were able to sync up the ults, and Zeus just look split up in these fights. They can't deal with the mobility of Akali and Lucian. Because of that, because the ultimates get dodged out on the combos, they get melted. It is a wipe for Wildcard Red as they wipe the first game in their favor, come back and find game 1 win.
Bradley just did so much damage in that last fight. He didn't even need to use the Zonia's ducking in and out of the stealth. It was so impressive, and they take game 1.
Hey, man, you got to say it how it is, but we're going to have to see how Wildcard Red continue the series, or if Zeus Gaming will bounce back as we get ready for game 2.
Welcome back to Old Chatware as Wildcard Red have taken game number 1. We've just learned that Kelsey didn't bother to open her program feed, so she couldn't see what was going on for the pre-show, and she just didn't realize that she had to, and she was just going through it, and none of us noticed because she did it anyway with no problems whatsoever. What are you doing, Kelsey? How are you this talented?
I still beat Rebel Fox in League of Legends, so that's the
You're
important
right.
part.
You, without even needing to see his face, you didn't even need to look him in the eyes.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that last game. I want to start with you, Kelsey, because we got about, I'm going to say 10 minutes into that game, and you said this game needs to be Bradley 1v9. He needs to turn this game, and then as we were watching, he hit a sick clip and then did that for the rest of the game. Can you unpack kind of your thought process there and how you were able to pinpoint that pivot point?
So if you look at the draft, it's pretty straightforward in terms of what both teams need to achieve, right? You have a very long-range comp going from blue side from Zeus Gaming, and meanwhile you have a lot of flank and a lot of side lane pressure. So what you want to happen is for Bradley to get these flanks and to get behind the carries who are relatively immobile, right? Varus and Orianna don't have a lot of tools to escape the Akali once he gets onto them, and immediately just annihilates Regine here as soon as that gap is closed. So basically identifying his targets very, very effectively in fights, being able to navigate them and use the W that just allows you to sometimes face plant and get on top of like Tuesday. Raheen constantly isolating the carries of Zeus he did his job perfectly, right? There is almost no notes that you can give aside from, you know, the kill on top lane that maybe you just yell at his team there because why aren't they just taking in him while they send the entire enemy team to kill him, you know?
Coach Kelsey as ever giving notes, but you have no notes. Bradley pulled it off, got the game started for Wildcard, and Rebel, as we were watching that middle of the game team fight where the game began to pivot, you said, okay, now the game's turned, now I think Wildcard are going to win this. Can you talk us through how the game turned on that hinge?
Yeah, so it started off like Dokla was pretty much the only one with a significant gold lead. Eventually, Bradley started stepping into, okay, I'm going to start making plays around the map. But Wildcard, how many people are here right now for Wildcard? What did I say before this started? They operate best when they're operating as a 5-man unit and as a squad. And even inside of this, there's individual play for Bradley to be very hyped up. You see his ability to get onto, despite Rhino's best efforts to prevent that to happen, he's still able to get onto Raheen. But this is the 5-man squad that you're looking for 100% of the time. Doesn't matter the early laning phase when super hard against Arrow. Doesn't matter that they were down a significant amount of gold. All that matters is if you put all 5 of these members together, they are much greater than the sum of their parts. And you saw that not only in this fight, but in the later fights. That secured them Baron, got them back to gold lead, and you know, despite the one fumble that we talked about just a second ago, because I know you were very heated about it, it was a very clean way to end that game here from the side of Wildcard.
And do you think, like, obviously you've said that's a playstyle decision for Wildcard Red, do you think that's something they're drafting towards correctly? Do you think that's something they should be drafting towards differently?
That's a good question. I didn't think what their composition looked like a pure 5-on-5 in my mind when I'm thinking of what a 5-on-5 is supposed to look like, but obviously they made it work because there was a lot of individual expression for Dokla and for Bradley, who were probably the 2 best contributors towards that win. I don't know if you have a different opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it should be hard for them to find a front-to-back angle. Mostly, like, they are going to have to neutralize these range advantages that Varus and Orianna are getting, and so they did that very well, right? The sidelines were almost always pushed in for Wildcard. They got this flank setup from behind the Dragon Pit, and as soon as Zeus pulled the Dragon, they're basically over as long as they aren't marking those flanks and aren't protecting the carries there, so...
Yeah, if we can I don't know if I'm asking too much of our poor beleaguered producers who may or may not have a tree through their house. But if we can go back to the very beginning of that final fight that we just looked at, because we were sitting here looking at the setup for that play and just marveling. That was one of the cleanest game-ending fights I've ever seen an amateur team plan for and then execute. It was so linearly visible what the plan was, how they were getting people in position to do it, and then watching Wildcard Red just bring all the pieces together was beautiful. Can you maybe speak a little bit on that, Kelsey, as we do get the replay?
Yeah, so they have the vision set up behind the pit. They had the lanes pushed out all the way. Like, we had Dokla walk in after he crashed the wave, immediately wait for them to pull the dragon, because as soon as Zoos have pulled the dragon, they've confined themselves to this space. And you have flank angles from just all of those sides. When Dokla walks around and they pull out to get onto him, Bradley then goes in, right? That's when he looks for the pick, and he immediately neutralizes Tuesday there. So basically, well coordinated, well played out, well envisioned even before the fight started.
And it worked beautifully. Wildcard Red did take game number 1. Now as we head towards game number 2, we're going to maybe pull out a pit stop. I'd like to talk about what went wrong for Zeus in that game. And through that, maybe we can talk a little bit about what went right. I'll start there with you, Kelsey. You talked about this bottom lane for Zeus. You very correctly predicted that Rhino was going to be a giant one-horned rhinoceros. Is that what it was? And they blew out the early game. What went wrong?
Yeah, the greater one-horned rhino was constantly finding angles to move to the top side, to move to mid side, and they were utilizing the fact that they had early winning matchups to get those advantages. I just think what happened is both in draft and within the way they were setting up the map, they had very few tools and resources to prevent some of the flank angles that Wildcard were looking for. So when you remember and think back to the 20-minute fight, when they were pushed out all the way like that as a group, there were so many red boards behind them. Like, Bradley was able to find a really easy flank. And so what I want to see from Rhino is like less big plays, more traveling with my jungler to sweep around behind me before we can test waves. So that's what I'm looking for.
So you want to see Rhino stay with the rest of the team? You want to see, it sounds like Zeus group up as 5 a little bit more?
I think mostly just make sure you're being very thorough on what wave you want to contest and what sort of vision and resources you need to achieve that. So whether that means they're grouping more or whether that means that they're basically just taking roam timers off of side play, forcing someone out of side, and then using sweepers to clear the area. It can be as nuanced or not, but just make sure you're checking the vision behind you and marking those flanks.
Not letting those sneaky Akalis get in behind you and end the game and dragon fights. Rebel, I'll go to you next. If you could tweak one thing in this pit stop as Zoos come in off the Formula 1 track, that's as far as this analogy goes for me, what would it be?
Yeah, there's a piece to this puzzle that I think was missing. So when it comes to this, when you're thinking of like, okay, how can you aggress against this like 5-on-5 style that Wildcard's got? You could draft something easier to try to execute, like the obvious ones like Malphite Yasuo. You wouldn't draft that, but that's like the easy go-to because it's like you press R, you win fight. It's that simple. I don't think it's that simple even if you've got an easier composition. I'd rather see Zeus lean the other way. And so my pit stop and my correction for them is they barely had interaction between junglers this game. I think Winston can be attacked, and I think Griffin's the person who does it, and this team looks a lot better when Griffin gets going very early. So I want to see them play towards specifically Griffin and get aggressive in the jungle pick. Even if you're playing Udyr into Rumble, don't let him sit there. Don't let him drop ultimates in fights and just pick away at people. Go get aggressive. Take his camps. Take his life. I don't care. Do something aggressive to start the game. Otherwise, like, you're just going to sit there and wait for team fighting, which is not going to go your way.
I want to maybe pull on that thread a little bit more as well, because we saw something we've never seen before that I was kind of alarmed by. Gwen kind of lost lane, but it was losing lane in a very stable and safe way. Alorum was playing weak side and doing so excellently, and Zeus were winning across the map at that time. So when you say you want to see more challenge from Griffin in the jungle, you want to see them play to their laning phase more, is that part of it? Are we talking about staying spread out across the map for as long as possible?
I think getting better lane matchups or specifically pushing matchups could be helpful, because I'd like to actually see more action specifically in the river, because as long as you're the one that's able to move first, you want to prevent Wildcard Red from putting 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4, 5 and 5 together, because they're much better to attack during that phase. And so with pushing lanes or with something that allows you, if you've got the Lucian as opposed to the Gwen in this matchup, maybe you can move into the river and attack with this Urga or with this Udyr and things like that. That's what I'd rather see. Not that the Gwen is a bad pick, but if you're going to pick the Gwen, make sure it can move. Otherwise, again, you don't have that same kind of premise.
Kelsey, down in the bottom lane, it works. Zeus won the lane. They were dominating the lane, in fact. How do you take that into the next level? How do you apply it from lane to the inevitable 5-on-5 team fights? Because even as, I think Rebel Fox is right, is correctly asking for us to see Zeus avoid that 5-on-5 for as long as possible, we still should be able to see a conversion from that one bottom lane to a 5-on-5. What's going wrong there? What could go right?
So, yeah, I actually do think that there is a very easy way to set up favorable 5-on-5s for Zeus, because you don't win sides. So you have to play front to back, but you have to play with your range, right? You have to make sure you're not letting the short range get out on you. And I also think Zeus had a lot of pushing lanes. The problem is that, Gwen wins extended trades and Lucian is going to win like the short trades with the combos, etc. So I think, like, for me, it's just utilizing that pressure more, because we want to have the fact that we are winning bot, we are winning mid, because of just the way the matchups are drafted and the fact that they went favorably. So we want to then use like support and jungle to make sure that we're forcing out, we're controlling one side of the map. That way, it's really impossible for them to get the collapses, and then you're kind of constantly rotating to one side as a group and pushing out the pesky side laners, the Dokla and the Bradley, and you're just able to get the front to back on your terms.
One thing I love about your analysis, Kelsey, is that you slip into coach mode and you start saying we, and you're like, come on, team, we gotta get it together. We'll see if Kelsey's advice can carry them over the line as we head into game number 2 of our grand final for season 3 of Challengers Uprising. All that and more right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. As we're gonna be getting through this, don't worry. But game 2,
You were freeze frame reading the notes. You were like,
I was reading the script, guys, and the script is telling
Yeah.
me that we're going to get a full 5-game series. I will not have it any
Just
other
gonna
way.
spoil it like that?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's for the fans. It's for the entertainment. So, but
we play for content.
yeah, we play for content here in Proving Grounds. But the other thing, too, to take stock of, both Smax and Cubby, is that I didn't tell who's winning each game. I just said we're going to 5 games. So, you can take it from there. But one of the things that we want to highlight as we get ready for the second draft phase is, we didn't highlight this before, but both the Kai'Sa and the Tristana were taken away from Raheen. And as you mentioned before, Smacks, Kai'Sa is basically the champion that Raheen has been playing the entire time. Not to take anything away from his laning prowess in that first game on the Varus, but without that killer instinct and any other escape mobility tools, you can see how it was something that Wildcard Red punished in the mid game.
Yeah, they really did ban him heavily out in that previous game. We're going to be staying on the same sides for this one as well, so Wildcard Red might be able to employ that same exact strategy. They took away the Kai'Sa, they took away the Tristana as well, and they did put him onto that Varus. For Raheen, he did have that really strong early game, he did have that strong laning, but when it came to the team fights later on, did not have the safest positioning, and his team did not really fall in line to save him from that poor positioning either, so he was not able to deal as much damage. It's pretty hard to do against a champion like Akali who's just going into the Shroud all the time, but it still was very tough.
And I really want to credit Wildcard Red with their team fight setups because Zeus had the lead, but they were overextending, and Wildcard Red, with the help of Bradley and Dokul, were properly punishing that as Raheen, when you saw those two replays that they had on the desk, he got off 0 damage on the 5-1 Varus, right? So the fact that Wildcard Red were able to get through that and set up fights around that, that's why they won game 1, and I think it's so critical because ultimately they beat Gwen in that first game, and now Zeus, they had to go back and swap up their bans. They're now banning Gwen last because they don't want to first pick it. They don't feel like they can win with that. And also, it is Bradley's best champion as in 3 plays on the Gwen. He's at 15.3 KDA. It's what he's known for. So instead, going to take away the Rumble and go for a team fighting comp starting off with the Rumble instead. And I'm curious to see what Wildcard Red's answer to this is because we've seen a lot of different answers to Rumble.
I like this strategy quite a lot from Zeus. They are mixing that up. They are not taking the bait that we saw Resolve take, where they just don't ban the Gwen at all on that blue side. It is going to be taken away, and with that, getting the power pick in the jungler. We saw Winston have a phenomenal game on this Rumble, bring him up to 7 wins. We now get to see if Griffin can do the same. He is sitting 6-0 on the champion of the tournament.
Renekton being locked in here. Remember that this can go to either Tuesday or Alorum in one of these side lanes here. Zeus Gaming, knowing now that the Varus also being taken away as well. This is pushing Raheen now to a potential 4th marksman of the series. And going back to the fact that Kai'Sa has been his most played the entire Proving Grounds in Challengers Uprising, at least so far, we're going to have to see a new pick from him in this series alone.
And I do want to go back to the Renekton pick, Rafa, because yes, it can be played either top or mid, but for Zeus Gaming, Tuesday's the only player that has played it, and it is his pick into the Lucian, so they're going to try and beat Wildcard Red with a better mid-jungle duo. That is one of the reasons that Zeus was able to get here in such dominant fashion, as that was the last game that they've dropped since the playoffs started. That was their first loss in the playoffs to Wildcard Red. That is how dominant Zeus has been, and that was over GGA as well, an Academy squad, right? AoE randoms, we kind of expected the 3-0, but hey, the GGA 3-0 is really impressive in itself. I like the Nautilus pickup. It's a great combo with Rumble, but they do seed away the Udyr, which I was talking about Rumble answers, Smacks, and it seems like Wildcard Red going with Udyr as a Rumble answer, and for Wildcard Red, that is critical as Winston in 5 plays on the Udyr, undefeated with a 20.5 KDA. He's been massive on this champion.
Another interesting thing about Wildcard Red's situation now is that they have a lot of physical damage on this team, and when you look at the champions that Daption is playing, it's probably just going to be another tank to match that of the Nautilus. So for Dokla, he's likely going to be picking a magic damage dealing champion up in that top lane, and maybe this is where we start to see some of your favorite tech against Rumble Cubby in that Karma top lane. Like, with this counter pick, Dokla might have something like that up his sleeves. Could also see something like a tank for him too.
I do want to expand on that Karma, as I've been pitching Karma as like a soft counter to Rumble just to have on your team, because you can use that Mantra E to somewhat negate the upfront damage from the Equalizer and get your team off the red carpet as fast as possible. That said, I'm not a huge fan of it this game. I don't think that Karma bot is going to have enough poke and can get all in by the Nautilus, and Karma top, that would give Zeus a counter pick most likely, and I don't think you want to give that to Alorum. He have an answer for it. So I think Wildcard Red go for something different. Also, a note from our producers that Ezreal ban actually an Ashe ban. So that is Ashe taken away by Wildcard Red instead of the Ezreal in the pick ban. Just as a note, blame Wildcard Red for not being fast enough on the fingers, but they are quick to pull off the trigger on that Tahm Kench.
And don't be fooled. Ashe being the one that is taken away, so another utility option being stripped. Now, looking at Wildcard Red, this Tahm Kench has been locked in. Even though the Senna is still up on the table, they wanted to secure this away from Zeus in case that Senna Nautilus was going to be an answer. But this now leaves Jhin up on the table, another utility pick. But now my question here is, do we just see a tank slam somewhere in the top lane or the mid lane?
I actually... I do want to go back quickly to the Tahm Kench, because yes, it does deny the Senna Tahm, but it's also really good with Varus and can help get someone off the red carpet as well. And then Jhin has been the counter that we're seeing to Varus. So I like that answer from Raheen. It's something he played very well in the last split of Proving Grounds, as Alorum grabs his Ornn that has been so key for Zeus Gaming in this tournament, as they've been utilizing the Call of the Forge God to combine with Equalizer smacks.
And he, not only that, but he was clapping PCL with the hammer slam up in the top lane in that matchup yesterday too. Or, excuse me, not a PCL, it was Chim, rather, my bad. We do, though, see the Sylas is going to be the answer in the top lane for Dokla. So that is going to be a magic damage dealing champion. Often a nice counter pick into the Ornn, because you can go for sustained fights with him. You have a lot of sustain with your Kingslayer healing, and you can steal that Call of the Forge God for your own team on top of it all. I really like this counter pick for Dokla. We'll see if he can make it work, as he did so incredibly well in that top lane in Game 1.
Wildcard Red. One thing to note is that when we were looking at this Jhin locket, as Max, if you have noted in patches and seasons before, Jhin just gets countered by massive, beefy front lines stacking armor, because he can't chew through the tanks. But this is not going to be a farming Tahm Kench. This is just a normal support income Tahm Kench, because it is being paired with the Varus. So there's actually a chance in this game where Raheen is not going to get mitigated in terms of raw damage output on this Jhin. So a lot of the concerns for Zeus coming through this bot lane might actually be alleviated. But with this Sylas being locked in, that is another point of contention that we're gonna have to be looking at, because you do have some powerful ultimates that you get to grab throughout this game too here.
And I feel like coming into this game, Smacks, we really see both teams grab something that is the team identity that we've seen them get here with, right? Wildcard Red leaning on the strength of their solo laners as individuals. When you look at Zeus Gaming roster, the first thing that we said when we saw them is, this team wants to team fight, and that is all they want to do. And so the fact that they dropped that first game to the fact they failed those team fight setups, they now have more tools for themselves, ones that they are used to with this Ornn for Alorum, that in 2 games he has a 22 KDA on. This is a combo they've been running with Griffin's Rumble to set up those equalizers. I want to see if they can make this happen in this game, as we are hopping onto the Rift for Game 2.
Max, look at this Jhin. Look at this Jhin.
I'm looking.
Do you see the keystone, bro?
I do.
Yo.
Going for the lethality. Well, probably not the actual lethality build, unless he actually is.
Hey, man.
He started the
I don't want to
longsword.
knock it quite yet. Yeah, he might. He might actually go for that Prowler's Claw. I've been keeping up with the sneaky videos. I know that Prowler's Claw Jhin is a thing. But it might just be a Prowler's Claw mirror here for Raheen. I don't want to predict anything too far into the future, but that Dark Harvest does show us that he is very keenly aware of the squishiness of this Wildcard Red team. And like you were saying, Rafa, Jhin typically does struggle against champions with very big health bars and lots of resistances. I feel like he might have a pretty easy time hitting and killing everybody later on.
I think Winston will be the only person that will be slightly difficult to deal with, especially if he gets a decent gold lead, as Udyr still running tank builds, but you know, we're going to start out the game as both junglers starting on Revs.
And actually, it was somewhat a cute start coming in here from Zeus Gaming, as you saw Alorum hovering in that mid lane, making sure that he had the matchup into the Sylas in case an emergency lane swap came in. So they are opting into this one, and both junglers starting on their red side, mirroring the clears on the map. I feel like this does favor the Rumble, who can be victim to an Udyr gank. And we see on the minimap as well, the 2 wards that we have dropped from Zeus Gaming. There was another one in the river. They're trying to protect this Rumble in the early game.
And not to mention the volatility of the lanes that we're seeing. I can't imagine that bottom lane is going to be nearly as volatile as something like these solo lanes can be. Tuesday with the mobility, he can come in and stun Bradley. And with Rumble right there, you have to force a flash immediately. That might be what we're seeing right now.
Well, Griffin actually making a chip into the mid lane.
Oh, no.
Tuesday. He doesn't have
He's
the
on the
stun
wrong
yet,
side.
but Bradley doesn't have anywhere else to go. Flash comes out. Griffin can just walk him down with the slow, and Tuesday flashes in for the slice.
There it is. That's exactly what I was talking about. It happened as I said it here. Bradley taken down for first blood in Tuesday, finding some reprieve in this lane.
And that's disastrous for Wildcard as well, because with the flash going down and Bradley dying, they can repeat that as now Daption. He's getting low.
He just walks out. He's going to be fine. He was burning to a crisp, but both Arrow and Daption showing strong resilience and patience and holding both of their summoners here.
And I know that looking at the bot lane, of course, Arrow and Daption were so impressive, but if you missed the opening desk, Kelsey Moser did give Rhino the most improved award, right? And we've been so impressed with Rhino's play. We saw a glimpse of it in the last game, and he's going to have to make a nice play here as Winston, not going for that crab, is actually hovering the bot lane. It's not even close, baby. Tuesday's just fine.
Bradley does not have Ignite. He does have Teleport in this lane, so can't quite cook the croc in the mid lane yet, as Tuesday's going to be teleporting right back. But yeah, we're seeing some blinking health bars in all of these lanes. You can see that neither team is phased by that first game quite yet. We still have a long series ahead of us.
Griffin, now we're going to take a little bit of a break from a little bit of the action and the chaos that we just saw happen for the first couple of minutes, but things are resuming back to standard. Griffin does get a chance to put an aggressive ward onto the Raptor camp for Winston. It's not going to be up anytime soon, but it will give some information on the next rotation of clear.
And as we do have both teams resetting after that first clear, I think it's a good time to talk about Griffin and Tuesday, right? The former CLG members, both very tenured in that organization. I know from talking with Tuesday earlier in the tournament, this is a duo and synergy that they have continuously built. They weren't always playing together on competitive, but Tuesday and Griffin, they maintained this relationship through duo queuing and working together, and now we get to see it on the Rift. I know that this has been the way that they kind of got here with that power, that mid-jungle duo, and it's good to see them return to that and already have a successful play in the mid lane here in Game 2.
And from talking to Tuesday today as well, he told me about what this matchup and what this win would mean to him and Griffin as well. He mentioned that because they have had that tenure in pro on CLG before, not only do they have to prove that they are the best mid jungle in the entire tournament, but they have to play even better than everybody else as well, just to prove that they deserve that spot on those higher tier rosters eventually also.
So now Wildcard Red have similar things to prove as well, right? You have players in Dokla and Winston who, like Tuesday, came from a very unfortunate organization that just collapsed. They didn't get a chance to participate in Proving Ground Spring. They didn't get a chance to really show off what they were made of. But now both on the strongest teams we have so far in semi-pro off of the Strowing and Challengers Uprising.
Here's the repeat.
As we see another repeat gank. Bradley still doesn't have flash. Oh, no way he gets out of this one. Bradley walks out.
Oh, that's
not even close, baby.
That is so tragic, as that was probably the last time the Zeus could find to easily repeat gank Bradley. That said, it still does grant them mid-priority. There is no Rift Herald, though, on the map, so Bradley gets away with highway robbery with that one, Smacks, and that is critical, the fact they weren't able to further snowball and put him in the gray screen to miss out on some CS and XP.
The good news is that, like you're saying, it would have been further snowballing this mid lane. They are already snowballing. You can see the Tuesday does have about a 500 gold lead there, but that would have granted him up to that 1,000 mark and would have potentially opened the path to these neutral objectives, which have yet to be taken quite yet. The Cloud Dragon is going to be the first one. Winston already barreling his way over here. Wasn't quite clear at that ward, so will be spotted, but his eyes are on the crab.
And they have a timer, right? Both mid and bot were able to get back on the map first. As you can see, Raheen and Rhino actually walking towards the mid lane. We might see a skirmish over this dragon, but Wildcard Red should have priority here, at least in the bot lane, as Tuesday did come mid to try and rival that. Of course, does have the lead against Lucian, given the fact that he still does not have flash. And Wildcard Red looking for the first dragon. They have started it.
Doesn't seem like Zeus Gaming are particularly interested, as Griffin has already taken this opportunity to, on spawn, pick up the Raptor camp, looking for more camps. Oh,
the dash.
over the wall! Bradley gave up the thumbs up last time. You couldn't catch me, but Tuesday comes in and is like, I got you this time, baby.
And Bradley just barely did not have the flash. You can see it right there. You can still see the one white line above
Winston's
the
invading.
icon.
They're going to
Just
collapse.
a couple of seconds later.
This is bad.
Wait.
This is bad. Winston, he's going to the other side of the map. You can tell he's already caught out. He's going to try and use the blast cone just to get an execute off. But Raheen, he might be able to land the W.
Not going to be quite in range yet. Think he executes?
Oh, the flash
Rhino
says, no, give me that gold, baby. I want some of that cash.
That's hysterical. Rhino using both of his summoner spells just to get the 300 gold from Winston.
Where was the
Not
penguin
quite
dab?
fast enough from Spider-Man.
He needed the penguin dab, man. That's all we needed to finish off that play. Perfectly needed to use the emote as well. But hey, it does actually kill off some of the Temple of Zeus, as they weren't able to snowball that kill into a dragon, as Rhino did decide to reset off of that and finish off those Mercury treads. And because of the lane states and because of the fact that Arrow was able to 2v1 in that lane, this still opens up the dragon window for Wildcard Red, as they're taking it now.
Tuesday getting a stun onto Bradley. That's a lot of damage. Doesn't have dominance
It's a
to be
big
able
croc.
to trade back in, but it is quite a wave. Daption already rotating over as well to make sure that Bradley can push in this wave safely and not get completely annihilated by the croc.
He's up 2 levels.
Yeah. And a good thing to remember here, too, is that he doesn't have any physical damage built up into his items at all. He's just defense. He has the plated steel caps. He has an extra ruby crystal. It is not going to get easier for Bradley once those long swords start to come piling on for Tuesday. So the 2-level lead and then the 2-kill lead as well. It's looking real nice for the Zeus mid laner.
First Dragon does go over to Wildcard Red, though. This is going to give them a little bit of objective strength, but Griffin already onto this first Rift Herald on the other side of the map. Wildcard Red don't seem to be showing any type of response as well, so this is going to be a potential Rift play for some major structure damage going into this mid game.
See, Rhino has already roamed on up here. He wants to make sure that they do trade that dragon for the Rift Herald.
Ooh.
And Raheen,
Look at
he's
the
just
cinematic.
out this wave right now. Happy B player, otherwise known as Arrow, does not want to be in the crossfire of the Jhin ultimate, will not tank any of those shots. It will still be the wave going over to Raheen, but I mean, Arrow's still got a massive lead in that bot lane just off of farming alone.
So Arrow does have a lead, but we've seen a lot of teams, especially in Amateur and even LCS, struggle with those Herald swaps, right? They usually overcommit to the Herald and seed golden XP in the side lane, but there, Zeus, they just send Rhino up to kind of be the bodyguard. They don't lose anything for that play across the map, and now have Shelly in their pockets to try and further snowball this small gold lead they already have, right? 1.5k, they can easily turn this into the first brick.
Yeah, and it's something that we've seen Zeus Gaming do before and give Raheen huge leads, is when the other team did opt into trying to contest for the Rift Herald swaps. But this time around, Tuesday, we're actually seeing quite a bit of a 3-man coming into Tuesday, but Griffin actually turns it around, flashing forward into Bradley. Answers in a flash as well. Double TPs are coming in. He's going to get rooted up by Arrow's Chain of Corruptions. Griffin popping the stopwatch, trying to buy as much time as he can, but Happy B player, a.k.a. Arrow, comes in with the arrow, but Alorum turns it around with this Call of the Forge God. It's huge, massive double kill for Tuesday. Now Wildcard Red, they're not going to be giving any more. Deadly Flourish over the wall. Not going to be enough to finish off Bradley.
Double kill for Tuesday, extends his lead up to 3 kills.
That's
and
mid-turret.
Bradley's forced off the turret yet again. It's going to be a bunch of plates going over. The Rift Herald did die with Griffin, so they can't quite break the entire turret yet.
I was excited. I thought the Rift was there to get dropped, but as we go into this replay, just keep your eyes out for the teleports and the turn that Alorum is able to make with the Ornn ultimate, because Griffin, quite frankly, overextends with this flash, right? The heal from Arrow gets Bradley out. Tuesday wasn't able to quite get in range for the Empowered Call of the Meek either, but Alorum, this is a 4-man Call of the Forge God, as he lands the 2-man knockup as well, and despite being at a numbers disadvantage, Zeus get the win, but now, speaking of a numbers disadvantage...
Raheen, he has the flash, he has the heal, but is it going to be enough to survive just the rotation goon squad? Wildcard Red now.
Equalizer's up.
They're going to have to get out of this one. Tuesday dashing in onto the bear, gets the slice and dice down. Daption, beautiful devour, won't be able to save Winston, and he gets out alive with a sliver.
That's the second time
in a row.
Yeah.
No, Tuesday and Griffin, they just can't quite catch a break with these kills, Cubby.
And that's mid plates going over to Bradley. This gives him time to try and catch up as Tuesday sitting at 3-0-1 with this lead. Honestly, Wildcard Red should be thanking their local, patrol. The fact that this Croc isn't more fed. He has barely missed out on 2 kills with the empowered Cole of the Meek. And the fact that Tuesday is only sitting at 3-0-1 is honestly a blessing for the side of Wildcard Red. But still, down 2 levels in the mid lane. And at 3 plates, this is a turret that can still take with Shelly that is about to expire. So curious to see if Griffin puts that in the top or mid lane here. I feel like mid has to be the location. If they break that, a huge point of power on the map for Zeus.
Still going to go back to the lanes. Raheen actually does get a moment of reprieve in this lane. You can see that the bottom lane for Zeus is already a couple of plates up. Shockingly, you can see Arrow is still up in gold because of those couple of kills, and a slight CS advantage is going to pick up this bot wave and make it even more so. But with Raheen's alone time that he's been able to get in that lane, it is still a couple of plates down there, and it does factor in for Zeus when you see that their gold lead is about 2k, and it's going to be even more in mid.
They're dropping Shelly, but we have Dokla here who can steal an ultimate. We might have Wildcard Red look for a play.
Equalizer was stolen by Dokla, but the fear of the hijack is enough to dissuade Zeus from pushing on further to knock down for the first break of the game, as second dragon is about to spawn. Chain of Corruptions will land onto Pocket Rhino, able to use the dredge line to try and buy some distance.
Tuesday's on a ward.
But Dokla is still here, ready to fight. Equalizer is still available for Wildcard Red, but it's also available for Zeus. The first equalizer coming out from Zeus is going to land on the 2 members. Winston gets melted. Call the Forge God will go through 3, and it's going to push Wildcard Red back in their place. Tuesday, Rhino, and Alorm suffering some health. Tuesday doesn't have teleport. He's going to have to take the recall.
In that combo from Griffin and his teammates, they were able to stun 2 members on the red carpet. The fact that that 4th bullet from Raheen missed saves the free dragon from going over as Dokla gets a gift with the recall. And because of that, because the health bars being low on Zeus, Wildcard Red, they can reset. They will get back out onto the map first and should be able to secure this Ocean Dragon.
Even after taking out the free smite from Winston that Zeus was able to accomplish, it is still going to be a little bit low for all their health bars. It's not going to dissuade them forever, though. Rhino is still half HP. He's going to trudge on through the river.
Pocket Rhino with 200 health says, let's go for it. Flash forward, using the stopwatch to drive by some time, but Wildcard Red, the strength is on their side. They're the ones with the numbers, and Griffin, Tuesday, and Rhino all fall.
And what are Zeus doing? They have low health bars. They do not need to go for that play and force it when they do not have the equalizer available to them yet again. As Zeus, they overextend and just gift Wildcard Red 3 kills and the dragon.
Oh, it's a huge shutdown by killing Tuesday there too, not to mention the other kills, not to mention the dragon here. Wildcard, it seems like it's just going to be a repeat of game 1. They haven't quite won yet. They haven't quite made the full comeback yet, but it does feel like they are finding the same types of advantages that they did in the previous one, and it all comes down to these objective team fights.
Yeah, but game 1, it was due to great team fight setups from Wildcard. This one, we knew that Zeus was going to win that fight, right? We were calling for them to recall and get tempo and just see the dragon. They do not need to go for that play, but instead, they force. It's not an intelligent play, and Wildcard Red, they punish them appropriately as this puts them back into a position where they can at least fight, at least contest the objectives coming up.
And this is... It's really, really shaky here from Zeus, especially after finding so many advantages in that mid jungle here for Tuesday and Griffin. Luckily, their time is still not quite yet out. You can see the mythic items are not completed. They've got the extra burst. They've got the extra mobility. But Tuesday might not like this 1v1.
Dokla popping the Dominus that he picked up from Tuesday. Griffin's
already
here first on the rotation as well, but watch out for Pocket Rhino. Dredge line using the same way as he tried to disengage away from the Chain of Corruptions. Winston still wants to chase, but there's no damage follow-up on the pursuit. As Wildcard Red do burning an ultimate, not going to get the kill.
And Rhino's been really good this game on the Nautilus as Bradley has to burn Flash.
Necessary evil there. would get solo killed by the Ornn. We've seen that happen way too many times by Alorum. He's just too strong on that champion. But at the same time, it is going to be Zeus taking that advantage by living and blowing the flash from Bradley top. They also get the turret bottom lane that will be the first turret of the game.
Tuesday can take his time on this one as well. Gonna make sure that he is maximizing the amount of gold denial.
Yeah,
I should say.
Is a good trade. Is a good trade from Wildcard, as they can use that Herald immediately on the top side to try and hit that inner turret. But I think the most critical part about these trades across the map, Smacks, the fact that Zeus, they just got mid turret for free.
Yeah, they absolutely did. A little bit of a lapse in pressure there for Wildcard. Usually you would expect Arrow to just shoot a couple of arrows at that wave and have it be killed, but not quite so lucky. He did feel the need to go and help out his team on that Rift Herald. They do secure it, and it will likely be a turret taken eventually with that objective, but the plates have already fallen. It won't be nearly that much gold, and for Zeus, taking those structures is going to be a really big deal because it just means that they can corner the members of Wildcard into their own section of the map, and that's exactly where Griffin wants to be with these ultimates, exactly where Alorum wants to be with his ultimates.
And as you noted before, the mythics already being completed for both sides of these two teams means that these med games are going to be quite destructive. The next one we should be expecting is in about 1 minute and 40 seconds here. The Mountain Dragon will be spawning. This is going to be the Mountain Soul. It is imperative that Zeus is able to start winning these fights because Wildcard Red, if they pick up that Mountain Dragon, they're 1 point away from Soul.
And I really want to see which team is able to get priority over the river, because if they are, Arrow poke on the VAR is so critical, but also turning off the whites and setting up for an equalizer. We've already seen Zeus use that successfully, and this is where we feel like their comp can really hit its stride, right? These team fights at this point of the game, Zeus should be the stronger team. They have the gold lead. They have the better champions at this point. I want to see if Wildcard Red even decide to contest, given the fact they already have 2 dragons at their name.
See it at the bottom of your screen. Arrow does still have a gigantic lead. He does have that Prowler's Claw. He's making his way toward the Muramana as well. Dokla may have found Tuesday, does miss the abduct. Won't be any 1v1s going on right yet, but we do have to note that the dragon is coming up in 35 seconds.
Arrow, didn't want his chain of corruption.
I was not going to talk about it. I was going to let it slide.
No, we can't let that slide. It is the finals. That is a pretty critical ultimate now missing, as Dokla, he resets, gets his buy, has to finish the Andres, and we have a setup for this fight. 4 members of Wildcard Red in mid with Dokla already below. Alorum is fixing the top side. We have TP wards behind. If you look at the minimap, Zeus do have 2 TP ward options as Tuesday is waiting in base.
Bradley just also recalled as well for a TP play to make of his own. But I imagine for Wildcard Red, a Crocodile flanking your backline is much more fearful than a Gunslinger. So for Bradley, he's just going to TP to the safety of the wave of his team here. But notice Tuesday's still waiting. He's still looking for the TP flank.
There we go. He wants bot wave. Here we go.
Gonna be popped up.
Great cancel.
The cancel on the Dokla, and Call the Force God will be there.
What
Tuesday
a setup.
with the flank. Oh my God, Zeus! They find the angles. They set up everything perfectly to knock down the dominoes of Wildcard Red.
And it's a repeat of game 1, but now in favor of Zeus, as it feels like whichever team gets the better team fight setups is at advantage. And what a beautiful setup from Zeus in this one, as Tuesday was waiting in base to TP. He does it. Rhino gets the cancel onto the ultimate from Dokla, as he had the call of the Forge God, and from there it is just a wipe in favor of Zeus.
Everybody is just exactly where they need to be from Zeus, with Rhino canceling the call of Forge God from Dokla. Both of the ultimates destroying the members of Wildcard, and then you've got the Crocodile over the wall with the teleport on top of it all. This is not only going to be the huge team fight win for Zeus, they get the Dragon, they're going to get the Baron as well, and they may have made this an even series.
5,000 gold lead now, an advantage for Zeus Gaming. Wildcard Red trying to stall and delay some recalls at the moment, trying to catch any stragglers at the moment. But now, as we take a look at the gold leads, before Arrow had a massive advantage over Raheen. Now it's only just shy of 200. Everyone else on Zeus way ahead.
And this first pick rumble for Zeus in game 2, the fact that they are really playing to their identity in this game feels like a total shift. As the Gwen, yeah, we've seen Alorum pop off. We know that he can side lane on that champion, and it's very powerful in this patch, but this is the Zeus that we know and we were looking forward to. The team fight prowess from these 5 players, what they were all known for as they came together on this squad. The TP cats, man, it's toilet paper. It also stands for TP, as he's TPing on the Forge God and the Renekton, and it's working out pretty damn good for Zeus this game, as they're poised to take this game too.
That fight was just exemplary of every single thing that we know and love about Zeus as the team and as the players. We got to see Rhino using those support mechanics. They exist, guys. We got to see him in this game. We still get to see him over and over from Rhino, canceling out that engage from Dokla. And yeah, I mean, we're seeing the aftermath now. They're taking down all of these structures.
The cancel on Dokla was really nice, but then, you know, he hovered arrow and pressed R. Insane player that we have in the bot lane of Zeus, as the power of Nautilus being so critical on this patch. And we talked about the Nautilus Rumble combo. Wildcard Red used it to a lot of success in game 1. Now Zeus have it in this one and find the same amount of success as both teams, able to execute with both these champions.
Alorum is finding the wrong side of a Dokla trade. Winston is dashing in very quickly.
They're going to try to CC him as long as they can. He still gets a call. The Forge God out. Equalizer is going to spread Winston and Dokla out of the jungle. Will save Alorum's life. They're looking for a re-engage, though. Call the Forge God hijacked from Dokla. Lands only on to Griffin.
Bradley based.
And now, Wildcard Red have a potential to collapse on them through the jungle, but they've already burned a couple of ultimates here, as doesn't seem like Zeus is going to take this one.
Zeus is learning from the last game, right? They need to be careful about these setups, as Winston is still poised to maybe look. Dokla also TPing behind, but they got Bradley.
Bradley's locked out. Deadly Flourish follow up the stun, but Dapson is there with a Devour. Tuesday cannot close the distance. He's going to get forced out by the exhaust. Meanwhile, Dokla is on the back line, but he gets eviscerated. Pocket Rhino picking up a double. This is not your ordinary support Nautilus. This is a carry Nautilus in the making for Zeus. They find Arrow as well, and they might have enough numbers here, Smacks, to end the game.
They may not have killed Bradley. They may have selected him as the initial target, but they kill everybody else. They still have the Baron for a couple seconds longer. They're already wailing away at the Nexus turrets. This might be 1-1. What a hook!
Equalizer comes out.
And this game from Zeus, Rafa, I'm sorry to cut you off, but this one's over. I know the Griffin's going down. Oh, maybe it's not over.
Cubby, you caster cursed it, as we see Griffin flying through the air. Wildcard Red saying, hell no, we're not going out without a fight. Abyssal Voyage is going to sync up with Winston. They're going to try to catch them out and cause some major damage, looking for a comeback and a swing in their favor. Winston now with the bear stance is going to try to run down members. Raheen and Rhino, they don't have any ultimates ready to disengage this. Flash is just not going to be used. Bradley gets the shutdown, and oh my god, Wildcard Red. I mean, we were ready to say this game was about to be closed out, but Wildcard Red are putting a huge stop onto those plans.
Okay, first, so Zeus got really chunked out in this engage. They burned a couple tools to get chunks on the side of Dokla, but he was able to base and TP. But the real key here is that Tuesday finds Bradley, followed up upon beautifully by Raheen, and from there, they just isolate the members of Wildcard Red one by one as a squad of 4, keep everyone alive, and just utilize their CC tool to take out one person at a time. But I want to take a second look at this base. They were trying to take the Nexus, and it feels like they were going to win the game, but then I guess they overextended. Griffin was eating the turret.
Just too much damage from this turret. They might even give up this 4th Drake of the game too, but Tuesday with this teleport, he's already in flank position. They must have seen him coming, but still, Wildcard Red are going to start up on this dragon.
Bradley's going to be late with his own TP call. The Forge God comes out. Let's see how many members he can hit. It's only on to 1. Daption is able to save Arrow, but as I say that, he's going to get sliced down by the Crocodile, and the rest of the members of Wildcard Red will scatter this Mountain Dragon. It's for Zeus.
And this game, Zeus, they struggled with finishing the Nexus the first time, but still look poised to take this game, as once again, a repeat of the last team fight we saw. Smacks Tuesday TPing behind and finding the angle, and that Alorum and Griffin syncing up the call of the Forge God and the Equalizer. It's just too much for the side of Wildcard Red to deal with.
And look at Arrow, he's in the Tom Kench belly, but he just pops right back onto the fiery furnace. It's just insane the way that this team uses the Ornn ultimate and the Rumble ultimate. We've seen it so many times. They're still sieging down the base right now.
Even a beautiful equalizer comes out, forcing the Devour early from Daption so that Bradley doesn't get cut off here. But the mid lane, Winston trying to run. Whoa! That's the Dark Harvest Jin. Beautiful knockup from Zeus. They take out 3 just like that. And this time, I don't think there's a chance in coming back. All 5 members are gone. Game 3 is going to be coming to a... Oh my gosh, guys. This is...
This is what we were hoping
He's just
for.
popping people, man. Look at this build. He's throw his clawed right on in, and they've taken game number 2. Zeus tie up the series.
This is what we were hoping for as the 2 titans of amateur in the early season of Proving Grounds go toe-to-toe against each other as Zeus take game 2 to even the series and send us to a game 3.
number one spot, yeah. No key, got the game on lock, ayy. Big threes when I I take my shot, ayy. On the rise and we ain't gon' drop on the grind. It's our time, just watch. If you want it, you can get it. Life gets hard, but don't you let it get you down. Go get the crown because our time is now. Ayy, we gotta get it. Gotta get up, gotta go, we gotta get it.
What's up, gamers? We've got a series on our hands, now tied 1-1 in the Challengers Uprising Season 3 Grand Finals. Welcome back to Old Chat. Let's start breaking down that last game. For me, everything goes wrong, or perhaps right, depending on your perspective, around that 10:30 fight. Alorum is able to hit a massive Ornn ultimate and turn everything around. Kelsey, talk to me in detail about how sick a gamer he is.
Absolutely. When you think about tanks, you think about Alarum. There just is no other way to say about it. But in this particular case, right, you have a range advantage on multiple champions from Wildcard Red. You have to be very careful about how you're using those ultimates. So Alarum's Ornn comes in, gets the follow-up ulti after Griffin drops his Rumble ulti. Both of those kind of nullify range, allow them to get to the back line, and then the rest of the team can close the gap with the knock-up. It also prevents Arrow from doing sufficient DPS just because he's CC'd the whole time and zoned out.
And I think a big part of that, also what allowed this whole fight to come to, was just how much pressure had been put onto the mid lane by the jungler. And that mid-jungle duo of Tuesday as well as Griffin, I mean, we know, I feel Covey talked about it earlier on in the broadcast, how much synergy those two had from the previous splits they've had in Academy, and then even some of the experience on the LCS stage. And clearly this team, they said, okay, Game 1 didn't work out. We're coming back to the chopping block. We're coming back to the drawing board, whatever it might have been. And they say, let's put a lot of focus onto the duo we know is going to have success. And it very clearly worked out for them, not only inside of that fight, being the setup in the first place, but also for the remainder of the laning phase.
And it also kind of led to what you were talking about, where it mitigated what you wanted to have happen. If you're a Wildcard fan, where Kelsey, you were talking in depth during the game about how Wildcard looked so much better when they were able to get into an objective first and play kind of defense with their composition, with their damage dealers. I think a very good example of this was the team fight around Drake that Wildcard Red won, that almost put them back into the game. Can we get kind of an explanation of that?
So when you're thinking about, I already touched on this with the range, you're thinking about the key abilities that we want to land here, the Varus Q, everything else. So you want to keep your Varus safe so that he could just stand away from the melee front lines and keep autoing them. So when they face check in, Varus has so much space to just kind of kite back, keep doing damage, and win the fight that way.
Not to mention, I mean, that entire fight, Zeus has no Ornn ultimate, no Rumble ultimate, Renekton ultimate is down. Like, all these such important aspects to this team fighting, it's just not there from the side of Zeus. Like you can't walk into a corridor, it's already disadvantageous for you. And then just walking in without cooldowns is outright disrespectful.
Right, they didn't have the cooldowns that had just won Zeus a fight in mid, and just how important that was became brutally apparent when we rerolled the dice. We tried exactly the same team fight, but this time Zeus did have the cooldowns.
That it was. First off, their positioning in this will look a lot better. But more importantly, when you have Rumble Ultimate and Ornn's Ultimate, you can challenge the backline, you can challenge the mid fight, you can challenge in a team fight all together. And when all of that comes together for the side of Zeus, it looks so much better. I don't even want to talk about what happens on the backline because that's what Kelsey's for. But just the ability to challenge everybody on the backside of this fight, not let them dig into a trench, is biggest part of what happens here and why Zeus is able to take this 5-on-5 where every other one has not looked good for them so far.
Can we roll that again and just zoom in on Tuesday? I don't know if that's within our technology. Again, we have a producer who may have a tree through his house. But what Tuesday did there, I think, is a particularly important highlight, Kelsey, because we just saw the last team fight where that Varus was able to dig into a defensive position on the exact choke point that Tuesday now comes in from behind, says, "It's my day," and I'm a hungry alligator. I don't know, I didn't have an end to that.
Yeah, I mean, Tuesday came in, saw the way Bradley was playing flanks and getting around behind carries in the previous game and said, you know, I can do that. And, you know, when we talked about a little bit of what we wanted to see happen is we wanted to see more control over those flanks, more setup. We had the snowballed flankers coming out of Zeus instead this game, and that just seems to be the answer. You know, RNG won MSI with sideline flanking and control. Looks like we're applying that in amateur.
So you're saying that Zeus are like RNG?
Clip it and ship it. Let's go. Zeus exactly.
All right. I like it. Let's go back to what we were talking about at the end of our last segment then, when we were talking about what Wildcard Red had done right and what Zeus needed to fix to have a hope in this series. Well, Rebel, it turns out that they did have a hope in this series. It turns out that they were able to turn things around. Can we go back to what you said they needed to change? Did they achieve that for you?
I really wanted to see them play towards Griffin, bully Winston a little bit, but definitely give a lot more towards Griffin, because I think he's a heart and soul of the team, and I think when he's ahead, whole team is playing a lot better than normal. And while they didn't necessarily put a bunch of resource into the Rumble, I think just the draft capital of giving the Rumble and also playing to that mid lane and getting that mid-jungle synergy and that duo, that very powerful duo together, was enough for Zeus to actually get their bearings a lot better in this game than the previous.
And what I said, TJ, was cut out the middleman and just make sure that the vision is swept behind you. But they just ignored my advice and they said, they can't get flank windows, they can't get deep vision if they can't win side lanes. So we're just going to make Lucian absolutely miserable and make sure that Renekton is always going to win that 1v1 and our mid jungle is always going to win that 2v2 as the game progresses, and we're not going to get caught behind or caught out anymore.
And it looked wonderful. So let's flip the script. Now that Zeus have won a game in pretty dominant fashion, they've won 2 consecutive early games. What do Wildcard Red need to do? And I'll start with you, Kelsey, because you were talking about how Wildcard Red wanted to play to these team fights in the 5v5. Is that something they can rely upon even if they keep losing the early game? Or do changes need to be made to their early game if they want to win this series?
I think overall, I just had a hard time really envisioning how they could play out their composition as the game went on. I think it had a lot of difficulty overall. I would like to see them go back to the tried and true stuff that they have been playing, like the front to back comps with the huge rage advantages. And but the winner so far has just been the heavy side laners. So I'm happy if they go back to how they looked in game 1 as well.
What does that look like if you say tried and true for Wildcard Gaming? Can you even give us champions?
Yeah, I would say that Bradley, for me, has always stood out in this tournament so far because he plays a lot of the Victor when a lot of teams have said that you can't play control mages. We need to play these heavy skirmishers and 2v2s. We've seen a lot of Victor coming out of Wildcard Red that makes these fights so oppressive with the ultimate and the gravity field. And then I would say for Arrow, like some of the things that he's done so well has been DPS. And in that game, he played Prowler's Claw Varus into Ornn, which just, I don't know how much DPS you think you're going to do there, but it's just not going to happen. So I think that's just a little bit of a disassociation with how I've seen them win games so far.
Rebel, I'll bounce that to you. Would you be satisfied if that's what we see coming out of the draft during game number 2? We see them focus more on those control mages having sustained DPS in Arrow's hands?
I think that last game there was, at least from what I had seen, there was a pretty decent lack of identity, because you have this Lucian mid lane that got kind of stomped out, Silas top lane into Ornn, that's great, Varus bot lane lethality, there were a bunch of pieces that worked, but they're cohesiveness in one whole piece didn't feel like what we normally saw from Wildcard Red. So if they do go to more cohesive pieces and stronger side lanes, like Kelsey actually suggested they do, I have a feeling this game looks a lot better for themselves.
Okay, is that the only adjustment you're looking for? If they tick that draft better, do you think that was the only problem that was happening? And once we're back on track drafting-wise for Wildcard, it's an easy win?
Now, I'm not one to disagree, but I am one to supplement with an alternative theory, which is if
like this.
Wildcard does pretty well in the earlier phases, maybe they have the ability to play side lanes that otherwise they wouldn't be able to. So like if the Sylas is smashing the Ornn in the early matchup, maybe the side lane's easier to access. And that's not a great example, but like things of that sort. You can supplant this by saying, okay, if you've got better advantages early and in your lanes, maybe Wildcard controls the map better and goes to team fighting better. And from that, I say, where's Daption? I saw him roam all over the place, semifinals, quarterfinals, all over the league. Where has he been? Where's Action Daption at? Why do I not get him all over the map on Nautilus or on any other champion? Get him around the place. Arrow's fine on his own in the bot lane. He doesn't need any support. He can carry himself. Get Daption elsewhere. Make sure these lanes are doing fine.
Can we get a superhero costume for him? That's what I want to know. So
What does it look like, Kelsey? Give me the colors. You got like 30 seconds.
Well, he needs some black and red for some wildcard gaming, absolutely. So I'm also wanting to see just like almost a Kennen-esque superhero with like a triangle down the front, absolutely.
Right.
Just a
Do
lot
Twitter,
of...
get on it. Send me the MS Paint art. That's my request. Action Daption, also to give you the behind-the-scenes stuff. Rebel was so excited to say that. He said, I'm going to say Rebel, I'm going to say Action Daption like a minute, 2 minutes. All about that. We're going to head towards game number 3. You won't want to miss it. It's right after this.
Ay, can't stop, won't stop till we on top. Quit, I think not. Coming hot for the #1 spot, yeah. No key, got the game on lock, ayy. Big threes when I take my shot, ayy. On the rise and we ain't gon' drop. On the grind, it's our time. Just watch. If you want it, you can get it. Life gets hard, but don't you let it get you down. Go get the crown because our time is now. Ayy, we gotta get it. Gotta get up, gotta go, we gotta get it. Ayy, they won't forget us. Made it happen and we all became legends. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it. We can't be contained when we leave the game. My name will remain. We don't need the fame. You can keep this chain. We broke free so things won't be the same. Nah, on the mission, gotta get it. Let's work. You were raised on the net. I'm raising my net worth, but it ain't about the money. Nah, it ain't about the cause. All that matters is the world knows who we are. Stars. If you want it, you can get it. Life gets hard, but don't you let it get you down. Go get the crown because our time is now. Hey, we gotta get it. Gotta get up, gotta go, we gotta get it. Hey, they won't forget us. Made it happen and we all became legends. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it. Know that our time is now. Yes, life can get hard, but don't ever let it keep you down. See, we are all kings and queens and we all deserve crowns. So don't wait. Get up, go out and get it. Now. Hey, we gotta get it. Gotta get up, gotta go, we gotta get it. Hey, they won't forget us. Made it happen and we all became legends. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it. We gotta get it. Gotta get it, gotta get it. We gotta get it. Gotta get it, gotta get it, get it.
Legends never die when the world is calling you. Can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die, they become a part of you. Every time you bleed for reaching greatness, relentless, you survive. They never lose hope.
told you we're going to go to be game 5 here. I mean, we're not there yet, but game 3 is back and forth because neither Zeus or Wildcard Red want to go down easily without a bloody fight. And already the blood has been seeping all over Runeterra. I mean, the rivers we're going to get into game 3, they're going to be red. And if you're not, then it's you might want to go to an eye doctor. But Smacks, we are getting a side swap from both of these teams.
Yes, speaking of red, that is where Zeus will be on this game number
Very
3,
smooth.
as Wildcard Red have initiated the swap. They're switching over to that blue side as the loser of the game does get to choose, and they feel like they want to get that B1 action rolling. Now, they probably won't get their hands on the Gwen, but then you start to think about champions like that Rumble that we've seen be so powerful in this series.
The Rumble Nautilus is off to a 2-0 start. We've seen each team use that combo specifically to really secure a win and split up fights. They did it in a little bit of a different way. Zeus doing it with TPs, and then Game 1, Wildcard Red doing that to enable their flankers with the Lucian and the Akali to try and rout off Raheen, who was on that Poke Forest in Game 1, in case you missed that. It's been 2 very close games to get us here to the Game 3, but hey, we're back on even footing. It's a best of 3 now, and we're going to have to see which team has better answers moving into this one to try and answer the other. And personally, I think we're going to see a first pick Rumble. I'm curious to see if it gets banned, and if it is first pick Rumble, I really want to see what answer Zeus has for that pick, because we've seen this battle right now kind of being defined by one team gets Rumble, other team has a lot of different answers that you have available to you. I want to see if Zeus switch it up.
The answers we have seen either have been something along the lines of, okay, you pick Rumble, we're going to pick something else that scales up just as hard as...
Yeah.
We don't talk about the Udyr. The Udyr needs to go. That champion's been in the meta for far too long as a jungle main.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rafa's bored of it.
Rafa likes Nidalee. He hates Udyr. There we go.
I don't even care if Nidalee's in the meta anymore, okay? She had her time. She was a queen back in Season 10 Worlds. It's fine. But if I see Udyr every single game after Riot has delivered Nerf Hammer after Nerf Hammer, then it is getting stale. But I do like seeing...
blame Jad.
He works on Team Liquid now. You can't flame Jad. He's not working the game design anymore.
He made the balance change back that got Udyr buffed. That was his change.
All right. Well, you know what?
Did you even watch the LCS pre-shows, Rafa? They went over this.
Oh my gosh, Covey. You know what? I think Jad has enough on his plate right now over at Team Liquid. But for now, we have very exciting jungle answers, and not just in the jungle, but also meta-wise as well. Covey, you alluded already. An answer to the Rumble has been Karma being flexed in one of the lanes, thanks to her mantra Inspire. But also we see aggressive jungle picks like the Xin Zhao, the Kindred if being paired with the Lulu. We haven't really seen a Lulu Kindred from either of these compositions, but it is more popular in a couple of Academy teams right now.
We've also seen Diana be very popular with Academy teams, as you can get up in the face of Rumble and Skirmish. And as we move into this phase of pick ban, also another pick to look out for, Smacks. We were talking earlier about the Thresh and how we think that Wildcard might have to ban that on blue side now to deny Thresh combos for 1-2. But I still feel like Rumble, he feels like so far the defining pick of this series, and I want to see if that trend continues as we dive into the draft for Game 3.
Going to be up to Zeus to potentially ban that champion away. If not, it's almost assuredly going to be Wildcard picking that one up first. Alongside that Thresh, though, Cubby, we do also have to give a nod to the Nautilus, which has been a gigantic pick not only in this series, but across this entire patch and patches previous. This has been a really powerful champion in that support role as well, and that's another one of those really powerful picks that Zeus Gaming have seemed to have an affinity for, especially in that second game where we got to see some really nice plays from Rhino.
So Rumble already being banned here as a bit of a respect towards Winston, as going into the series he was 6-1, now 7-1 on the champion throughout Cup. And wow, Zeus taking away both junglers. So this is very significant for Wildcard Red, because Winston has 12 plays on both Rumble and Udyr going into the series, now 14. And that was... He's one play on Diana, one play on Olaf, and one play on Sejuani. So they're really trying to limit the champion pool of Winston, but this does give away the Thresh, which Daption was so good on yesterday for Wildcard Red.
The Thresh is just such a nice pick as well. The safety of the Tahm Kench and the hooks of the Nautilus. It's the best of both worlds in one champion. So
we see Senna
seeing
Kench.
Daption lock that one in. The Senna Kenji is on the board, and that has been a staple of zoos
Tristana's
of
also
old.
up.
They have that possibility. Just like you said, though, Rafa, the
Renekton?
Tristana, which has been banned in the first 2 games, is up.
Sets.
So is the set for Rhino.
Wow, so this is a pretty significant matchup, and I know that Smacks was teasing a Rhino set from their series against Golden Guardians Academy, but I also know that Desk and specifically Rebel Fox wanted to see Action Daption back in action, as he was a little bit missing in the last game, and him having this Thresh, I mean, this already sets up for what we expect to be an Aphelios coming out now for Wildcard Red, as that is the best pairing with Thresh, Arrow's most played champion and most successful champion in this tournament.
Check this out, guys. We
I'm checking.
Set and Nautilus being locked in super early, not only going to show the importance of Nautilus for Rhino, as it was massive being paired with that Rumble in the game 2, but I mean, you saw the mechanics come out already with its being able to interrupt key ultimates anytime Dokla was trying to hijack a Call of the Forge God. We can see how useful it is as well, being able to escape difficult situations. But revealing Nautilus early on with the set means that we already know that more than likely the set is going to be going to Tuesday in the mid lane, because we haven't really seen it from Alorm quite yet.
Can be a powerful top laner in this meta. They have recently given it some nice AD or bonus AD ratio buffs to the abilities, but just as you mentioned, we're expecting that to go over to Tuesday. With the jungles taken away, though, this is very interesting. This is going to be a blind Diana in the jungle for Winston. Usually we see this as a counter pick to Rumble. Rumble's off the board, so Winston still, after getting rid of the Udyr, getting rid of the Rumble, this feels like his most confident third jungler.
And I know that Diana is pretty strong right now, specifically into Rumble, but playing that champion into Set and Nautilus just honestly sounds like a nightmare scenario for Winston. And this opens up Griffin to counterpick it. It's going to be the Elise.
Spider Queen has hit the rift, ladies and gentlemen, and even though Riot tried to give her a nerf, which came out of nowhere for some reason, Elise is still reigning supreme in the hands of a few select junglers. The only other jungler that we have seen Elise being picked up in Academy, actually, from Anda, who used it to great success. And if you've already seen Elise from Anda in the past during the spring split as well, you can do some major damage in the early game. Pairing it along with someone like Set, Turret dives in the mid lane, looks lethal here.
Oh, yeah. You got to take away the Renekton, too, at this point here for Wildcard. But with the Renekton ban, you have to think, what is Raheen going to pick at that point? He still has yet to choose his champion.
I would narrow Raheen's pool because Alorm, he doesn't really play Set or Renekton, right? He isn't known for these champions. And honestly, if anything, I want to see a Nico ban come out from Wildcard Red. If you have followed Alorm on Twitter, he has been crushing solo queue with this AD Nico that he uses to split push and plays it very well. We've seen him play it before in Cup, in Amateur, in Tyler 1's Money Match, Rafa, as we cover those. As Zeus Gaming, they are going to continue the pick ban and take away some of these solo lane options here for Wildcard Red. 2 picks that we know they can flex the Jaysh. We expect they can flex the Tristana, with Dokla already opting for a marksman top lane earlier in this event and today in this best of 5. Wildcard Red, though, they're giving Raheen the pick of the litter. I'm curious to see if we see an Ashe from Raheen, as more engaged in what they have right now would be very tiresome for Wildcard Red, potentially.
Yeah. Engage will be crazy from Ashe if that one does end up being the choice. I'm also looking at a champion like Ezreal, which has recently gotten a huge power boost with the Divine Sunder option. Is instead going to be the Malzahar that is banned away. A little bit of a head scratcher from me, but maybe Wildcard Red knows a little bit more.
We saw Unity play it. It was bad. It did not look good. However, into Diana, you can simply just press R on Diana, and she isn't able to move, which Zeus Gaming, they already have a lot of abilities that do that to make Diana not move. And I'm curious because they need something that can either engage or something that is non-committal, and they are going to pair up the Jinx and the Nautilus, something that Raheen's very comfortable with, and we've seen him and Rhino play to success, but something that is vulnerable to Diana.
Here's my thing, though, about Jinx. And Smacks and I talked a lot about this when Jinx was in the meta during just a couple months ago. If you're going to get Jinx, you got to pair it with a lot of burst damage and or some escape tools and mobility. Thresh was picked away, and they already locked in Nautilus. So this Jinx doesn't really have any escape routes or safety utility locked in with this composition as well. So this is really a composition that is all about going forward here.
Also,
something she does have is range, though. And Raheen showed us in the previous game on Jhin that he was very good at using that range in those team fights. So maybe that is what they're looking at right here. But she might have just gotten outranged, as that is the Azir lock-in the mid lane for Bradley.
Holy moly.
So this is something that Bradley is very comfortable on. However, this is something that Zeus can punish, as the Azir-Diana mid-jungle duo is not good. And the last game, we saw Griffin and Tuesday really take advantage of Bradley in that matchup. I want to see them pick, like, they already have a set of elites. They're going to have a lot of early priority. And now Doklo gets to counter the Renekton, and it is going to be the Nico, his favorite pick into the Renekton. As I was about to say, Wildcard Red, they called the bluff the fact they did get the Renekton, which pairs well with the Diana. But now Alorum gets a matchup that is a go-to for himself, a lot of comfort. And Zeus Gaming looks set up for a very, very powerful early game with the set mid, with the Elise, and now with this Nico that's going to get perma-prio top.
And go look at his Twitter, go look at his OPGG if you need to. Alorum is going to build AD on the Nico top right there. He is going to be another source of that physical damage, and he will end up pairing very well with that Elise too. You have the extra ranged crowd control with their Nico route. You have the extra physical damage, so the opponents can't easily itemize against this early power duo. And not to mention the set in the mid lane providing all that extra crowd control too. This is a very nice setup for the front line for Alorum and the rest of the Zeus gang.
I will say, though, Smacks, that what Wildcard Red do have is some powerful disengage options. You have this box from the Thresh, you have the Emperor's Divide from Bradley, and in the first half of the draft, there was a lot of powerful pick potential, ability to move forward, especially with this Diana, because with Moonfall, you're not necessarily trying to move backwards. You're always trying to set up big plays, but with the last two picks here, Renekton, potentially a denial or trying to set up for the best blind pick available at the time for Dokla, but also Bradley on this Azir. If he is able to get through this early portion of the game without any dives from Griffin and Tuesday, then if you didn't see the C-LOL championships, then you would have known that Bradley was an absolute monster on this pick.
But that's the issue that Wildcard Red's going to have to face, is these first two games, we've seen comps that scale similarly throughout the game and have different styles that they want to execute in the team fights. But this game, in this game 3, we're seeing two very different compositions from each team, right? We have Wildcard Red, who are looking to get this Aphelios and Azir to the later stages of the game where they really hit their stride, whereas Zeus, they have prio in all 3 lanes early with an Elise that's invading a Diana who is worthless until she hits level 6. So I really want to keep our eyes on Zeus, on Griffin and Tuesday, this tenured duo from CLG, as they step into Amateur to prove that they still are the top dogs of their roles. They're going to have every option available to them in this early game to get up in the face of Diana, set her behind, and punish her, and I want to see if they can execute upon that.
One place, Cubby, where that priority might be in question is that bottom lane, though, because we know that Arrow and Daption are a very potent and powerful laning duo right there. We saw the semifinals just yesterday, where Arrow completely gapped Array and Winter, to put it harshly, but also to be very fair to Arrow's skills on this very pick, paired up with its signature duo of the Thresh. You have so much pick threat, you have so much safety. This is a very powerful laning duo, and if Winston can go down there as well, make it a 3v3 or maybe even a 3v2, this is going to be very scary.
All right, so one of the things that we want to actually look at is what Griffin's path will be like on the Elise. Obviously, if you want to opt into a full clear similar to Diana, you can, but that doesn't really accentuate the strengths that Elise can have in the early game. You want to hit level 3 as fast as possible, so look to see if Griffin skips out on a couple camps here. Doesn't necessarily need to go for the wolves. You can just go for blue, Gromp into the red, and then start to make moves on the top side of the map.
You called it out, Rafa. The single target camps is what Elise gets through the fastest. I fully expect Elise to skip over wolves, and I want to see where she goes once she hits level 3. Because this is where she will out-duel Diana, can outplay Diana, and has mid-lane help as well early with the set that is just so tough to move.
And check this out. We even saw a Lorem going into the top side of the jungle on the enemy side, making sure to scout out where Winston is going to start. Unless they think that he started off Wolves, they know for a fact now that with bottom lane also arriving late, Winston is on the bottom side of the map. So if Griffin wants to make aggressive moves, he knows that he can meet Winston on the top side of the map.
Skipping over Krugs is Winston, so that's definitely on his mind, Rafa. He does want to be up here, does not want to go for that full clear, and will be readily available. Is going for Wolves. Yeah, so is Griffin. They're both going to be on this camp at the same time, so this does mean that Winston's on the top side of the map, and Griffin isn't.
This does give the option for Griffin to skip over the Krugs as well and meet at level 3, where we did say that Elise is stronger. I think that's exactly what they're going to look for. As we do see early bot lane trading. And Smacks, you did cite the fact that Arrow and Daption, we expect them to be the stronger bot lane coming into this series, but given the champions, this still should be early prio over to the Jinx, who just dominates the wave, especially with Nautilus having support prio against the Thresh as well.
Depending on how Griffin paths here, there was a ward dropped by Bradley on the, not necessarily on the Raptor camp, but in the entrance into the river. So if Griffin is able to path towards the top side of the map, might be able to, but he's going to get spotted out by this ward.
It is clear, Griffin, but this gives full priority over to the crowd.
Yep, 10 seconds until that one does spawn. You can see Alorum's already pushing in this Renekton, landing all of these spells. Dokla is not having a very fun time. Yeah, with the press the attack here too. Griffin in position. Does he flash for it?
Doesn't look like it, but he will chase them out and prevent Dokla's recall from coming in even sooner. Tuesday having to flash the first part of that Crescent Blade.
This should be bot crab over to the Diana, as Tuesday could reset and TP, but not going to be the case. Instead, going to stick it out, as Wildcard is getting a nice trade here on the bottom lane.
Yeah, excellent trading there from Arrow and Daption. You can see Rhino has to use that first potion, will likely need the second, but the mid lane, Bradley, will have to use that Shifting Sands away from the Cocoon, and Winston better hope he finishes this quick. He's got Smite, though.
Yeah, they have priority.
I really like the early priority coming in here from the side of Zeus, or Wildcard Red, with how they played that bot lane, as Alorum trying to get tricky with it.
It worked.
We saw it a little bit in the Tyler 1 Money Match series, Covey. Alorum knows this champion in and out, and being able to pull off those jukes is one of the specialties as well, as he teleports back to lane looking to regain control.
Interesting thing to me is whether or not... Oh, he does it again. Whether or not he goes for the Gale Force in this game, because I know he does go for the marksman items more often than not. Gale Force seems like the kind of item that would be really strong on Nico to just reposition the Pot Blossom and get it into that backline, because otherwise I do feel like it will be really difficult to land that stun onto these ranged backline members of the Azir and the Aphelios.
Yeah, fun fact, you can also use the Gale Force to extend the range of Nico's R while you're charging it up. As Tuesday
just like
going to force Bradley to dash. Yeah, just like the Proto Belt. As I think also critically, we talked a lot about the Elise versus Diana matchup and really kept our eyes on that in the early game. But Winston got first base for free, right? Even camps with the Elise has not been pressured. The only lead is really coming from Alorum's laning prowess on the Nico in the top side. So very good for the side of Wildcard Red. Keep in mind, they immensely outscale Zeus. So time is their friend. The fact they're going even is positive for the team on the blue side.
With that being said, we've already seen across this series that taking Drake on spawn is a no-no in this one. Neither team has really gone for that quite yet, and Winston keeping pace with that too will clear up that bot side, but he is clearing toward the dragon, and we're seeing the Daption just covering him over there as well, potentially looking for a play. Both supports are trying to make a roam work. There's the ultimate. Wow!
Who doesn't have 6?
Bradley!
No flash!
With the setup onto Tuesday, knowing he didn't have flash thanks to the early gank from Winston, and First Blood goes over to Wildcard Red.
Oh my goodness,
word.
what a setup.
Bradley is just insane. Okay. Oh, I mean, Daption was already there with the roam as well. He had the hook on lock, just making sure that the ultimate was there. But the biggest thing is that Bradley hits level 6 first. Tuesday's not quite there. You can see it in this crazy angle that we're getting right here from our production. But Daption's just icing on the cake. Under this turret is not where Tuesday wants to be. Rhino is not playing the Thresh, so he does not have Dark Passage. It does mean First Blood. It does mean Dragon.
And we have to go back to the point of Wildcard Red's composition. This is meant to scale up and have a stronger late game than the one of Zeus. If you're already starting to get through that early portion of the game without any punishments whatsoever, then this is going to be great for Wildcard Red as they are coasting not only with that first Dragon pickup as well, but also with the early gold lead.
With that bot side prio, we now have a play top.
Oh! Alarm going for the Pop Blossom. Dokla is able to dodge it out. Still has Flash. Cocoon goes wide as well. Griffin is going to have to dodge out the turret aggro, but Tuesday comes in, saves the turret dive from going into disaster.
That's impossible for Dokla to dodge out on, as he dodged every single skill shot, but just could not survive on the Renekton as the 3-man comes in. That was the proper response for Zeus, but now they do have to cede this bot lane priority a little bit, as Winston actually found Rhino.
What? Rhino's dead? He had to
Winston
flash
was there.
away too, but it doesn't matter.
He had 6. He didn't need it.
All right, let's take a look at this topside play again. Like you said, Cubby, Alorum, he doesn't even land the Pop Blossom, but just zoning Dokla away and then Griffin as well. This is why Elise is so powerful in the early game. You can just repel on out of there. This is what I'm interested in, though. What happens to Rhino?
Just gets cut off by Winston and misses the dredge line. Winston takes the freebie as Rhino has nowhere to go. Tries to walk out, but just not able to escape the clutches of Diana, who does hit level 6. And this is the playmaking opportunity for Diana. And the fact that Wildcard Red are up 1k gold, keep in mind, Zeus had all the priority early. Everything was in their bucket to try and knock down, to try and take for themselves, but they were not able to get anything. Wildcard Red survive it. Yes, this Renekton is very far behind, but they don't need that Renekton as the game goes on. They need the Azir and Aphelios, who are off to good starts.
You know, Cubby, this is very reminiscent of Game 1, where we did see Dokla. He had a gigantic advantage over Alorum, and he was the only member to do so on his team. And they shut him down later on as well. It's completely flipped in this game. Alorum is the one who has a gigantic advantage. You can see he's up 40 CS. I'll say that again. 40 CS before 9 minutes on this Nico. You can tell that he's put in the games on this pick. But everywhere else on the map, it is still Wildcard Red with the huge advantage. They are up over 1,000 gold across the board. That's a huge lead across the rest of the Rift when you see that Alorum is still just super gapping Dokla.
And a lot of that is on Arrows Aphelios, his best champion. Keep in mind, undefeated on this champ, an average gold diff at 10 at 850. So he's right on pace for his expectations at how good he is at this champion. And personally, I know that Alorum, he can do a lot of work in the side lane as the Nico, but I would rather have my gold on my former LCS MVP on his best champion with Aphelios, as it is a great start for Wildcard Red. They survived early, and now they have to survive the Rift Herald take from Zeus. As yes, they still have priority on the Rift, given their champs.
It just goes back to what we were setting the expectations of this game is supposed to be. Wildcard Red, scaling composition. You get through the first 15-20 minutes, boom, you are home scot-free. You should have the scaling advantage over the side of Zeus, whereas so far the only advantage that they've been able to find is really through Alorum. Tuesday, that advantage has been negated and has been beautifully played by Bradley and Daption being able to counteract and get the first blood, as we saw earlier.
Oh, Alorum, he juked the same way again from Dokla. It's just going to be a trade of these ultimates. But Griffin is here. He's going to walk away from this one. As we see these top laners just doing top lane things, just whacking away at each other, I do want to mention that... Oh, actually, you know what? It's not done at all. Okay, maybe.
Nah, it's done.
All right, they're baiting me. They're just doing top lane things like I was saying. Anyway... The thing that is traditionally true of these early game teams with the era of the Drake Soul, as it may be in the past few years, the team that is having the early game strength is usually the one who gets all these early Drakes, and so they can scale with that.
But Smacks, this prank on the top lane. The fact that Griffin wasn't able to cash in on this so critical because look at what is going on in the bot lane right now. If we can pan our camera over there, Raheem Rhino, they've been zoned off the wave, and they're missing even more CS as the first brick is going to fall to Arrow. Him and Daption getting it by themselves at the 11-minute mark. Beautiful play coming in from Wildcard Red. This is what we wanted to see out of them in this game. This is what got them here as they had a great series in the last ones, the semis, to get here, to be once again here in Game 3.
Yeah, well, for Wildcard Red, they're more than happy to give up this advantage over to the top side of the map because the scaling advantage is not in a Renekton, it's going to be in your Aphelios. And Arrow is going to be the one he's going to be the one that is going to take home and put out the damage in these mid-game and late-game team fights as well here. And the other thing that we have to consider is that Zeus, this was the strategy that they employed to get Raheen and Rhino through the early laning phase, but now it's being done to them, but a teleport coming in from Bradley. No turret to protect.
There's no turret.
Raheen and Rhino, these are going to be dead in the water as Winston's already getting zoned off. Lorem had made an early CP, but Bradley comes in, and Burst Revive will find 2, but it was only actually on to 1 because the clone from Lorem is able to get him out. But just as I say that, 3 more members show up over the wall, have routed off a Lorem. The shutdown will go over to Arrow as well. And what a player to be able to pick it up as well, funneling even further gold into the late game carry.
And Rafa, it is a complete disaster across the rift for Zeus as Alorum was the only one with a lead, uses his TP to try and save his bot lane, but still goes down. Wildcard Red convert on the play. They turn that first turret take into kills, into a second dragon, and Zeus down 3k gold with a team comp that gets immensely outscaled, are already doomed in this game.
Oh, when the flash comes out,
never mind. What? Are you kidding me?
Griffin and Tuesday say, no, we're still in this game, guys, and it's time to put the pedal to the metal. They're going to try to find more advantages. Arrow's going to get locked up by this cocoon. Tuesday trying to walk up, forcing the flash out of Arrow, but now they have to disengage from this because Arrow is one scary Aphelios right now.
You spoke a little bit too soon with the Drake call there for Winston as he does get shut down and stolen away by Griffin, but still we're seeing the continuation of the previous game as well. And the one in the game 1 too, the setup from Wildcard onto these plays in the bottom lane is just gigantic. And Alorum, just like you said, Cubby, he's the one who has the advantage, but he just gets thresh hooked, he just gets stunned all to hell. And is just dead. 3 kills again for Wildcard, a gigantic advantage, and just a little bit of an oopsie here.
Yeah, this is pretty critical given the fact that a Mountain Dragon does go over to the side of Zeus, and they also get kills on top of it. As I mean, this game, it's still immensely out of the hands of Zeus. This is all in control of Wildcard Red, who have funneled so much gold onto their big carry in Arrow, not only in playstyle, but also given the fact that he's on Aphelios. As tuning back in out of this replay, Alorum's running for the hills.
He's got the tier 2 boots, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. The snare lands. Okay.
Oh my!
No way.
He bamboozled them.
Producers.
Can someone cue up the Yakety Sax theme music right now? Bradley
uses these.
But he throws them over the wall. Repel from Griffin will be able to save his life, but Bradley. I mean, this is why he's got the Azir guys.
I mean, it's still a little bit close as Zeus. I mean, we talked about their power right now. They still have it. It's just that they need to put the pedal to the metal to try and make more saving face plays, because the fact they're down gold right now, still doomsday given the composition that they have, as it's really going to need to rely on Alorum in this side lane to try and make something happen. That's the only point of power they're going to have as this game moves on. And they are trying to at least make the gold lead a little bit smaller, but it hasn't been anything that shifts the game in their favor, which they need soon.
Zeus has been opening up the rift, though. All that time, Tuesday was spending wailing away at the bot lane turret. There's going to be 2 of those for Zeus, and they only need 1 more outer turret to really crack open that rift, like I was saying. They also do have all of their mythics on the top side online now, too, so maybe this is that time where they can try to go for a fight. You have to remember that Arrow doesn't have his summoner spells. He only has the Dark Passage from Daption, which admittedly is a very, very potent tool of keeping him alive, but the rest of them aren't quite there. So if Zeus do remember that, they have that timed ready, maybe this is their opportunity to kill Arrow.
Rana gets hooked. No dice, though, from Wildcard, as this Rift Herald is up on the table. It's going to be what Zeus want to fight for, but looking at the members of Wildcard Red, notice that there were some powerful item spikes coming in Wildcard Red. They go in for the dredge line.
Tuesday.
This massive Tuesday ultimate with the showstopper, but look in the back line. No one is touching Raheen. He's able to chew through this front line. He's got the resets going, but Arrow and Bradley still alive. Jungler has been traded for mid laner on Tuesday, as well as Daption. Numbers advantage over to the side of Zeus, as well as the Rift Herald here.
And I'm still really curious why Wildcard Red are walking into that choke, as we are painting this picture as the game being relatively over, right? Zeus gets outscaled so immensely. Why go for this play? You can go farm bot, you can go push mid, you can go make trades across the map and just take advantage of your scaling. Instead, you grant Zeus a perfect fight in the choke, and the fact that this is only a 2-for-1 for Zeus is honestly a miracle, a blessing going over to Wildcard Red. The fact that they just gifted them that opening to get back in this game.
You can see that it didn't even harm Griffin's timing on the Rift Herald at all. He gets to kill it, go get a double kill, and then walk right back and pick up where he left off. Rift Herald now in the pockets of Zeus alongside those couple of picks. They are still at a gold deficit in this game. It is still in the hands of Wildcard. They still have those kills online. They still do have a lot of vision set up for this third dragon where the big team fights are going to need to happen.
Yeah, and if I'm Zeus, I am forcing this third dragon no matter what. I think that our eyes, every single flash is up on the side of Wildcard Red, but let's see how Rhino uses that depth charge, and if Tuesday's able to get in the back line as Wildcard Red, 10 seconds away from this Ocean Dragon spawning, have control over the bot side river.
Well, Cubby, he needs to have it up first. It's not quite up from the previous play. Need to wait a little bit. The Drake is now available to be killed, but
Tuesday's on a flank.
Both teams still waiting for a little while. You can see Bradley, he's going to be recalling. He's going to have a teleport opportunity, but the mid lane turret's going to fall here for Zeus.
Okay, so Zeus, they do trade for mid. They're ceding control over the dragon, but Tuesday's wrapping around. The concern for them is the fact that Arrow has amazing guns right now on white and green. Perfect setup for Aphelios, but here comes the engage.
Long range engage. The Moonfall comes out. Daption
no depth
is
charge.
able to silence down Rhino, and he's gone. Dokla teleports in, looking for the follow-up. A Cocoon will be able to put him in his place, and now the re-engage showstopper down, forcing Dokla to flash. Daption still trying to follow up with the flay, but Alorum. Oh, the ignite's gonna be enough, and Arrow picks it up from long range. The numbers advantage in their favor. No one has died on the side of Wildcard Red. The dragon should be theirs.
Arrow's Aphelios is just too good this game as he was able to be protected in that fight. He's still going. Where does the Elise come down? Oh no. Action Daption caught a minion.
The respect flash from
no
Griffin,
one is
though.
safe
He
from
knew
the death
what was
sentence.
coming. Death sentence was about to come out. Thankfully, the minion doesn't actually get anyone, but third dragon of the game, second dragon for Wildcard Red, has been granted over to Wildcard Red.
Yep, and they only need 2 more to secure that soul, which would just push their scaling over the top. It's already immense. Both of their late game carries now have 3 kills, and their front line is just falling in line. We're going to be seeing the final mythics come online as well after that fight, and it is looking more and more doomed by the second from Zeus. We're going to need to see some miracle mechanics from this oh so impactful Nico. That's a good start, maybe? Whoa. No, it's not at all.
You got fooled? Aloran's been fooling everyone. Yeah, Aloran's been fooling everyone this game, but not fooling Bradley. As we do have a response. 2 members of Wildcard Red showed, and I think Zeus, they have to push. They have to go for plays right now.
Siege coming in.
For a turret.
Oh no.
Dessins.
Look at the flank. CPs.
Oh,
this is so bad.
TP flank coming
so
in
bad.
as well. Flame and Moonfall from Winston. This is going to be massive. A lot of health bars are low, but Winston has already given his life for the cause. But Dokla and Bradley are here for the flank. They have to be careful of Tuesday's damage, but Dokla is just doing fine as he slices down the members of Zeus Gaming. Whoo!
Oh. Okay.
Rhino's on his own team, so that one wouldn't have been a kill, but can't find the play onto Bradley. We saw that Winston, you know, he just gives his life for the team. He does sacrifice himself, but that ultimate is so gigantic. And now they're actually going to start up on this Baron. Griffin is dead. There's no Jinx ultimate either. Zeus do have to get into this pit, but there's no smites at all.
Alorum doesn't even know what's going on. The side of Zeus don't even know what's going on as, he's going to scout. Now they figure it out. Can they turn?
Is he able to make a steal happen? But he just gets rooted up and locked down in place. Arrow will take him down as well as the Baron here.
And Zoos went for a full early game team. Were not able to find anything in the early game as Bradley and Arrow still deathless on these late game carries as Wildcard Red secure a 20-minute Baron and what was a close game 1 and 2. Both teams having nice team fight setups, taking a game for themselves. Wildcard Red have flipped the script once again and have taken a dominant game 3 as they are poised to shut this one out with a 4K gold lead, a comp that heavily outscales. And Zeus have to go back to the drawing board relatively soon. I don't know if there's any hero plays that they can make to bring themselves back in this one.
Aaron gonna start to match the turrets of Zeus in this one. It's already been killed in the top lane. Looking to take one down in mid here too. You can see the Griffin is trying to get something off the map. Gonna be stealing away a couple of those camps, but Cam's just gonna respawn. Those turrets are forever. Tuesday? Maybe looking for some sort of flank. They have routed the members of Wildcard, but can't go too much further in. They do lose that fight if they fall right into the hands of Wildcard.
Dokla had no TP, so they're trying to force, trying to look, which once again, Zeus they need to do. They need to find the Hail Mary. They need to go for the big play here as Tuesday is still wrapping around. They might try and take this.
Tuesday still has Showstopper. He can get in range with a Facebreaker. He dodges it out thanks to the Dark Passage, and Daption and Arrow just walk out scot-free.
This is what we wanted to see from Wildcard Red. Their bot lane stepping up like they did yesterday. This game from Daption and Arrow, we've seen why the Thresh has been banned away the first 2 games. It has been a beautiful combo, one that's well practiced from them as they deny any hero play coming out from Zeus, and Dokla just keeps on pushing in the bot lane, securing more and more leads for Wildcard Red.
Oh, Wildcard. It's feeling like they're not too happy about that second game and how it played out. They're wanting to secure the match point in this one. Griffin does make it out alive for now. That was the Aphelios ultimate used, but Baron minions are still alive. That mid lane turret is not going to be so lucky if they can continue this relentless push in this lane and try to secure a little bit more of an advantage before this Drake spawns.
Zeus Gaming are trying to hold on as long as possible, but the time on this clock is starting to run out for them as their window for being stronger than Wildcard Red is, if it hasn't evaporated by now, then it is going to evaporate soon because we are heading into the 25-minute mark. 3 items already completed for Arrow as he just picks up the Runan's Hurricane at this point in the game when Raheen is still failing to complete the second item as well. Massively behind in terms of DPS. Zeus Gaming have to hope that they can isolate Arrow and take him out at the beginning of the fight.
This is the pick that we saw absolutely ravage Resolve just yesterday, and it's going to happen in this game yet again if history repeats itself. You can see they're trying to set up a flank. You can see the Tuesday is in the base, ready to teleport to this bottom wave, or a couple of these wards that are in the pit or just outside of it. Here it comes.
Teleport.
They have to find something here. They need to set up the angle as Tuesday's wrapping around. Wildcard have this warded out. Now he's spotted.
Flash face breaker, but does he get anything off? Arrow is able to flash away, and now no one is threatening him on the backside of the fight. Zeus have to secede control. The flash move fall forward. Bradley follows up with the Emperor's Defy, picks up 2, and just like that, Wildcard Red will be able to just wipe all the members of Zeus. It's an ace, and Wildcard Red are ready to take the 3rd dragon.
Zeus may be the toilet paper cats, but they're the ones getting wiped today here. 5 for 0 on the play. Let's just watch all these ultimates back to back to back from Wildcard Red here. Bradley with the Shurima shuffle, and it all starts off, all of this damage on Tuesday. He can't even press the W. He doesn't even get the shield out. There's just so much damage, and everything falls in line from there.
And this is a game that really sends a message over to Zeus Gaming, who, keep in mind, once they dropped that series to Cloud9 Amateur, they didn't drop a game for all of the playoffs. They 3-0 GG Academy, and a lot of this was off of the mid-jungle duo from Griffin and Tuesday that looked so good in the last game with priority. This game just not able to get it done, and this team got severely outscaled in this game as the early plays being negated. The early play from Wildcard Red was exactly what they needed for their comp, as now it is just the easiest game for them to play out with this Azir of Aphelios. There is no way that Zoos are going to be able to get back in this one, as they're going to play it straight. They're going to wait for the next Baron. They're going to use that to close out the game, as Wildcard Red have put together a beautiful game of League of Legends here in Game 3.
Aura may have practiced this pick a lot in solo queue, but Wildcard Red are another beast entirely.
Oh, here we go.
Whoa, three-man pop blossom. Oh, look at the burst damage from Raheem falling up with the super mega death rocket, but Arrow on the backside.
Arrow
Flanking Aphelios. I've never seen that one before, but when you're this far ahead, you can do anything as Arrow picks up the triple.
Arrow knows exactly how strong he is on this champion, going legendary on Aphelios in Game 3 as all the cooldowns were used. It was a great angle from Aloran, but Zeus too far behind, outscaled out of this game as Wildcard Red take control of this series and bring themselves to match point with a victory here in Game 3.
We're getting the emotes from Wildcard Red. They're feeling good about this one. They're taking us all the way to that Game 4, maybe beyond as well. It's going to be up to Zeus to try to bring it back and take it to Silver Scrapes.
Winter coming around the flank, bring 5 Fire and Abner with him, and it dives right in, focusing down Fnatic. APA chained down, 5 Fire will get the kill. PCL in the bush, trying to stay alive, trying to focus Abner, can't get the kill. Everyone dies for Barrage.
A little bit more damage going forward, marching incredibly aggressively. It's a double kill over to the Rise. He will be shut down. Oh! Nice shot over the wall. Huge throws coming out from No Organ. Sola Fide getting it done here in a 4-for-2 fight. About to be 5, making an ace. A triple kill for Dokla.
I've seen Unified's growth firsthand since day one. Since their inception, they've operated as one of the most proficient tournament organizers in the scene. Their platform has helped showcase and develop many talents, both in the game and on the broadcast. And all of my interactions with them have been incredible, and I truly cannot recommend them enough.
I am here today to talk about the Unified Esports Association, a name that I consider synonymous with excellence in broadcasting and tournament operation within the North American amateur League of Legends space. When I was part of 100 Thieves last year, their product, the Unified Premier League, was undoubtedly the first amateur tournament we wanted to sign the 100 Next program up for because of this professionalism.
If you are interested in getting involved in production in any way, whether as a shoutcaster, producer, replays, observing, any of that stuff, they are fantastic to partner with. Cannot recommend them enough. And if you're a player looking to compete, you also need to consider signing up with Unified.
When we started Challengers Uprising, our goal was to streamline and improve the path to pro. UEA has that same mission and values. We want to bring you bigger events, more events, and in-person events as COVID begins to wind down. That's right, LANs. This merger allows us to accomplish all of those goals. At the end of the day, we know we'll accomplish more together than we ever could apart.
I am very excited to bring on the Challenger Uprising team with Chris, Jordan, Glenn, and everyone else who supported and brought so much amazing content to the stage. We're welcoming you guys in with open arms as we continue to build out the amateur space. Thank you for everything that you've done. I appreciate all of the work and effort that you put into this amazing season and tournament, and look forward to all of the content we're building together. We are unified.
Welcome back to All Chat. My name's still TJ, still alongside Kelsey Moser and Rebel Fox as we begin to break down what's been going on in this series. I said a moment ago, we had a series on our hands when we tied at 1-1. Wildcard Red got right back to business, and it started with exactly what you were asking for, Rebel. We got some action-daption.
That we did. Finally, Action gets out of the laning phase. Action-daption, my apologies, gets out of the laning phase. And this wasn't like the most ridiculous thing. It's not like this happened all game, but at minimum, it was big punishment for two things. Yeah, look at this. The roam from Daption comes in. Obviously, I'm a large brain. More important fact, they shut down this jungle mid duo that worked so heavily. And one of the biggest things is like this cut off the entire bottom side of the map. There was nothing to be had in mid or bottom lane for the entire game. So all these resources just get poured into this excruciatingly well appreciated by Kelsey Nico pick in the top lane that somehow floundered.
We'll get to that, Kelsey. I'll ask you about the Nico pick if I just need some extra rage out of you. But let's start with the split map that created, because Rebel set you up for it. Because of that early play, we ended up with all the resources going to one of two lanes.
Yeah, in part because of the early play, but also because you just had the matchup in the bot lane going in favor of Aphelios Nautilus, which I think doesn't normally happen too well, so... Instead, we end up in a situation, well, this is not exactly the same thing we're going to talk about, but we do have the TP coming in. This is showing the fruits of the Nico pick, which, by the way, I'm so glad was in this game. So, in general, though, however, like, you could see in this team fight, what happened was a split map situation. Aphelios got super ahead, and instead your trade-off is that Alarum gets really ahead when they're going for 3-man's top over and over again, right? So the exchange there is, you think about what Nico does for you. She's going to be on hit. She ended up being like 50 CS up on the Renekton. That was great. But what does she do in the game? So she doesn't necessarily win side lane jungle 2v2s with Elise, Nico too straightforwardly. And then you have so much sustain on the way that a lot of these champions are building that she's not going to really bully with on hit and sustain damage that much as the game goes on. Plus, she gets outranged by the Aphelios and Zero combo, so she's not going to DPS in team fights. So my question was, okay, maybe, yeah, Nico's good for the lane matchup, but what does she do in this composition? And meanwhile, what does Aphelios do in the composition? They picked Set and Nautilus, and then they followed up with Aphelios. These champions want to dive into him. He's going to have so much fun playing this game, and that's exactly what we saw as a result.
So obviously it's an imbalance when the Aphelios is Arrow and Arrow is playing well and Arrow is tearing up the game. But this is a strategy we've seen Zeus fall back on many times in the past, Rebel, where sure you're losing on one side of the map, but it's alright, our failsafe is Alorum. My mind goes back to a Swain game that happened during UGP last season, where Alorum just got turbo-fed on the Swain and carried. What's different here in this game? Why wasn't pouring resources into Alorum enough to turn the game around?
I think the Nico pick, while stronger than 4 champions, is definitely not quite enough to get over the 5th champion. But more importantly, you're playing a team fight into a team that's already got good team fight, and you're low range, something that Kelsey talked about because she's got a much bigger brain than I. You see, Tuesday tries to make the flank work, Raheem tries to make the flank work, but no damage is coming out here. Like, Alorum's the one with the gold, he's way in the back. Raheem's behind everybody, way in the back, and neither one of them is capable of carrying this fight, even if they were in the prime position. And you see this dominant team fighting come through. Yes, there's a massive gold advantage, but look how perfectly they played it. They focused down the backline diver, and then they worked the way front to back. They played it exactly the way they've been winning games all season here for the entirety of what they've been doing for this split. It's wildcard gaming playing into exactly how they need to be playing games, because that's what their strength has been all season.
All right, well, you sound awfully confident there, Ravel. Would you say you understand these teams and you're ready to make some predictions?
Yeah, I think I'm ready to make a prediction. All right, just to segue, I was gonna give you potentially the chance to segue, but I'm just gonna go right into it because I think it's really important.
We'll set it up. We'll make sure the audience knows where we're at. So this is Lightning Round. This is a game we've played a couple times here on All Chat. I'm going to ask both of my desk panelists to make a prediction, and it's got to be something relatively specific, such as a specific player's performance, something like that. And then they'll wager a certain number of points on it. Right now, the point standings, Kelsey is in the lead with 40 points over the course of the season, beating everyone else. But Rebel Fox is hot on her heels in the third place with 36 points. Who's in second? Well, is Smacks, who's been a goody two-shoes, sitting at 39 points to close out the season. So you have a chance here, Rebel, if this goes right, to close out the season with the highest point total of any of the panelists. So, let's get your prediction, and then we'll give Kelsey a chance to match it if she thinks you're wrong.
Now, I have a big belief in all of the talent that exists, and one of the biggest things is, like, in a previous season, we learned no org was capable of beating down some of the academy teams. They were the best team. And so I'm a big believer in amateur talent. And in this game, my boy, the hands player, Raheen, he's going to have 5 kills over top of Arrow, the ex-MVP of the LCS and the ex-LCK player, ex-Worlds player. Raheen is going to take him to the house this game, and I'm putting 12 points on it.
Okay, so the stat you set for this was you thought Raheen was going to have 5 more kills in this next game than Arrow. Kelsey, you have the opportunity here to say you're going to match that. You're also going to wager 5 points on it.
Yeah, I'm also going to wager the points there because I think he's absolutely incorrect. I mean, I do think Raheen and the bot lane has been pretty even in the 2v2 laning, but compositionally, we're getting the cleanup coming out from Arrow here. And I think Wildcard Red have settled into what has worked so well for them for most of Cup. We've got the Azir and the Aphelios. So, of course, we're going to get a lot of kills coming on to the 80 carry player coach, as they like to call him.
Kelsey, I'm just checking my notes here, and it sounds like you're not believing in amateur talent. What's going on?
According to TSM Amateurs video, I think that it is impossible to foster amateur talent. I think that's exactly what was said.
All right. Kelsey, you also had a prediction for this next game.
Yes, my prediction, you might think, Kelsey is sitting pretty. Rebel Fox just came in here with some completely ludicrous idea, so I could just easily clean it up, right? Smacks is chilling over on the cast, can't contest us. But I'm not about playing it safe. I have to defend.
You're going down swinging.
The boy Winston, whose name was besmirched at the top of the hour by my co-analyst, who doesn't even know his name, right? Enough to besmirch it. So I have to say, Winston is going to really, make Rebel Fox look ridiculous. He's only going to die once throughout the rest of this series. That is his cap, and he's gonna bring it home with a nice clean KDA and a victory for Wildcard Red.
And you quantified that? You said Winston would only die once in the next game, or the entirety of this series?
The rest of the series.
By Lord.
Which is basically the same, because I think it's going to be a 3-1. So.
All right. Rebel, is it true that you can't spell Winston without win?
I think it's true that you can't spell Winston without in.
That's
I just hope for everybody's sake, especially like Kelsey, because you're gonna have to see it, that Griffin busts out Lee Sin and just styles on Winston, because I know it's in the wheelhouse. I know it's good enough to still play in the jungle in some matchups. Let him loose, Zeus. Let's go.
All right. I didn't hear a match there, though.
Yeah,
You're
it's a
not
match.
matching this prediction. You're matching the prediction. All right, let's go. A split desk, a split panel. It doesn't sound like you agree on how this is going to go, but Kelsey's all in. She thinks we're closing things out here for Wildcard Red. And I, for one, am excited to get to tally up these points and figure out who closes this season as the best panelist, the best analyst on our all-chat desk. We're heading towards potentially the final game of our series of our Challengers Uprising Season 3, and you won't want to miss it right after this.
Tell me where do I go? Tell me where do I take us? Your heart is starting to slow. May the water be safe. As I dive in, bloodstains wash underneath the waves.
Match point for Wild Card Red here, ladies and gentlemen. So if you are a Wild Card fan at home, you are getting your cards ready. I'm saving on to the phrase just in case.
Stack them up.
I'm not gonna utter the phrase yet, but I already know all the Wild Card fans are spamming the good old hashtag as Zeus Gaming. Their backs are against the wall. I know that these players want this just as badly as Wildcard Red. So, and, you know, according to my script here, we're going to a Game 5. So, you know, Zeus Gaming, expect to come out swinging here. But Wildcard Red might be ready to say, you know what, screw the script. We want to just end it right here, right now. And some of the things that we need to be pointing out in terms of the champion priority, Cubby, I know you're trying to get in right now.
Yeah, if that game was the biggest stomp that we've seen so far in this series. I mean, that is a 20-minute Baron for Nazir Aphelios against a comp that had a much better early game, a lot more tools to make plays. Zeus were not quite able to find it. And going into this one, Wildcard Red gets the blue side once again, Spax. We saw that really the swap for Zeus was the fact that they were taking away the Rumble and the Udyr away from Winston, but he was still able to have an impact, and giving away that Aphelios and Thresh for Wildcard Red proved deadly.
I'm really hoping that Zeus have a strategy prepared for Red side that still allows them to put together a composition similar to that of Game 2, because like the three of us kept on saying, Game 2 felt like the most Zeus Gaming composition that could have possibly ever existed. They had the long-range engage, they had their signature Rumble and Ornn, they had the backline damage where Raheen could just stay back and shoot people from afar with the Jhin. It all lined up very well for them, and I hope that they can do the same thing on Game 4 here. And because personally, I want to see a Game 5. I don't care about my predictions anymore. I just want this to go all the way in this series.
And I think the key as we dive into this early champ select, Smax, is it seems like Zeus, that last game wasn't the answer for them, but they seem okay with the picks and bans that they made, as it is the same so far. I'm curious to see if they take away the Udyr from Winston here once again.
Here was the power pick that has been picked against that Rumble, but both of them off the board yet again. It's got to be Thresh. They already won with it in Game 3 for Wildcard. They're going to stick to the same strategy. What is interesting to me, though, is whether or not Winston will go for the blind Diana again.
Well, for Zeus Gaming, we have to see if it's
Here's
a set
the swap.
Nautilus, but Tristana this time not going to get taken away, and an early Gragas as well. Normally, we've seen Pocket Rhino being really powerful with this champion.
Okay, but this is something that we know Pocket Rhino can play, and he saves it for the Rel counter. But into Thresh, I think they're taking this as a flex. As keep in mind, Griffin has historically been known for his Gragas play in the jungle, and does have a game on the Gragas in this tournament as well, and into the Aphelios. That is one way that they can manipulate the terrain around this champion that Arrow has proved to be so deadly on in this tournament.
Yeah, that's the problem, Cubby. It's Arrow's Aphelios. It's Arrow who will be piloting this champion with the Thresh yet again. I'm repeating myself from what I said in Game 3's draft because it's still true, and they proved it in that last game again. It's going to be a Xin Zhao in the jungle, though, for Winston. No Diana.
Okay, so here's the flip here. Zeus Gaming, as you pointed out, Cubby, we saw Griffin flexing the Gragas to himself in Game 3 against Golden Guardians Academy. It was powerful, has a lot of early game agency.
Good memory.
But the thing is, against someone like Xin Zhao wins all the 1v1s, the isolated skirmishes. You have a lot of ganking shrink on this Gragas, but in terms of overextended fights in the river, Xin Zhao will be able to cream you. So now this is going to put a little bit of a hamper on Griffin. If he still wants to take the Gragas, he might have to go with a different jungle pick if he doesn't want to get obliterated in the early game.
So Zeus
locked in.
Yeah, Zeus are sticking to their identity, right? They already have a Lorem on a tank, and I fully expect a Silas and maybe an Akali band to come through now for Zeus to try and attack the shared champion pools for Wildcard Red. They could also take away the Jace that we have not seen them allow Wildcard Red to get their hands on, but I'm not as worried about that given the fact that it is an AD jungler for Winston in the Xin Zhao. Is we have not seen him on this pick yet in this tournament, something that we expect all junglers to be able to pilot rather effectively, given the simplicity of the champion kit, but gonna have to see how Winston looks on that one. But already a lot of early power for Wildcard with the Thresh and the Xin Zhao and late game insurance in Arrows of Felios, and I love the Senna ban as well, denying that away from Zeus Gaming.
Interesting Senna. The Ashe does come through as well. To me, this feels like from just those first three, I feel like the Tristana's going bot lane and we're going to see an Orianna from Tuesday here. I feel like it fits really well with this team fight composition that the Ornn is providing. I feel like that's the natural solution to this, and maybe if they lock it in fourth too, you can save that flex pick between jungle and support with the Gragas. Wait, Ori's banned? Okay, I'm dumb. Forget all of that.
Jin's locked in. So need to outrange Aphelios.
It's okay, Smack. There's a lot of things to take stock of, you know, and it is a very small thing on the screen as well. But the Jin being locked in does confirm that this Tristana is going to go over to Tuesday, but the flex option still remaining is whether this Gragas is going to be in the jungle or support here, Cubby.
And I'm curious what Griffin has up his sleeve, because this is something that Zeus are paying a lot of attention to, as we now have an Akali Shen locked in. So Shen, a tank matchup into the Ornn that does get pushing, enables you to make bot side plays, as they are Wildcard Red very clearly are set up to play through Arrow with this pick ban.
We're getting word from production that this is the very first Shen of the entire tournament in what very well could be the last game if this
production
pick does
doubling
end up
his
working
stats.
out for Dokla. We see that the Nautilus has made its way all the way down, and we do now know that the Gragas is in fact going to the jungle here for Griffin. This is a very exciting prospect as well. We've seen him play this a lot. We've seen Tomio play this as well, just last split, and if that stays the same, this is going to be a big burst AP Gragas.
And I think this is a much, much better setup for Zeus going into this game. The last game, yes, they had the mid-jungle duo early. Yes, they had the early tools to make plays, but they were not able to find anything. With this setup, they have scaling, they have Tristana, they have Ornn, and they have Gragas to try and manipulate the terrain for these fights. What they have to look out for is this Akali Shen duo, as Bradley, Akali being one of his best champions, was able to secure a win on that in the game one for this series. And that is something they're going to have to deal with and pilot throughout, but they at least have some champions that can mark the Akali and can try and peel for Braheen and Tuesday, which will be very important to watch as we dive into this game.
I know we're very excited about the Shen Akali combo, as you have an assassin paired along with the Stand United. You're giving an extra health shield as well to guarantee that the Akali doesn't die during the assassination attempt. Well, we got a Xin Zhao in the jungle, and Griffin has said, you know what? We don't, this is going to be the best jungle answer that we have. And like we said before, Gragas, powerful ganks, but in 1v1s and in skirmishes, Xin Zhao just is going to win out in the longer extended trades in the grander scheme of things for this river. So this is one of the things that Zeus is going to have to be careful about. And much similar to how Winston was able to avoid, at least in the early game on the Diana, Griffin is going to have to do the same thing on this Gragas against the Xin Zhao.
The Xin Zhao, I feel, in this game is slightly telegraphed to where it's going to go, though, and that's sort of just the nature of the Shen being locked in top lane, where you can see that the Shen is going to play weak side, going to play utility top laner for the bottom lane. And who better to do that for than Arrow in that lane? We've seen most of the Aphelios Thresh games, or the Aphelios in general for Arrow. He's been able to get all these advantages on his own in that bottom lane. This seems like a situation where they're going to be providing it a lot of pressure on top of that from the team too. And that, to me, says that they are just super confident in this bot lane pair. And honestly, I am too. I've been watching Arrow in the past couple of days. It has been astounding.
Yeah, who can blame them, right? Arrow has been the player that has gotten them here, gotten them to this point. And I want to see if Zoos have an answer for it. I think that they have more tools in the pick ban. Keep in mind, Alorum's Ornn has still yet to lose today, but they're going to have to counter something that Wildcard Red, it's been so dominant for them, which is Arrows Aphelios. And we talked about it earlier in the series, right? Sometimes you leave picks up because you think that you have a game plan into it. When I see Aphelios into Ornn Gragas, this is a decision that Zoos are making. They're saying, we're going to leave this Aphelios up. We're going to try and out-interact it with the range that we have with Jhin, with Gragas, with Ornn to try and manipulate the terrain around this pick. Resolve had a great answer into it game 1 yesterday with the Seraphine Hecarim Nautilus. They were not able to manufacture the win, but they were winning for the majority of that game, but Arrow was able to overcome them in the end. And I want to see if Arrow is able to overcome this comp, because Zoos have definitely taken steps and have selected champions that can deal well with Aphelios.
The displacement power from Gragas, as you both have already mentioned before, it's going to take Zeus's resilience to be able to get through just a little bit of that early game. As I know, I don't want to sound like a broken record. Xin Zhao is terrifying in the early game. So, but you know, it's only for the first of 5 to 10 minutes. Once Gragas is able to get the level 6, then you can start really impacting the lane, or you know, just clever pathing from Griffin can walk around and get around Winston in the first couple of clears of the game. But, you know, looking also at this bottom side of the map, the big change, Tristana being locked in for Raheen. It's not the Kai'Sa that has been taken away all series long, and it has been most picked the entire Challengers Uprising run here. But, and just as I say that, I remember, it's not Tristana. It's Jhin. It's the Jhin. My apologies, but Tuesday going over to the Tristana instead.
What the?
We're going to see if Tuesday can get out of this lane early before the Akali comes online and start impacting the map.
What the heck? Xin Zhao? Or Jin Zhao? That's the meme, right? Anyway, let's forget that I said anything.
Yeah,
we're in on the rift here for game number 4. As Tuesday is going to be playing a marksman into this lane, Bradley on yet another melee assassin. And, I mean, this is the volatility that we have seen all throughout. There have been so many kills, so many plays in this mid lane matchup. The junglers have been ravenous to get their hands on the enemy mid laner. I can't imagine this is going to be any different here in game 4.
And Zoos need to come up with a better plan early, and it seems like they're already set up for one, as Winston is poking his head around past the 115 mark, just going for a ward, but Rhino was hovering. Would have been a dangerous invade. Wildcard Red, they understand that. They back off, as we're going to have both junglers start on the top side of their map and path towards bottom, where we expect all the action to be taking place this game.
There's going to be a ward spotting Griffin on the red buff, so at least for the side of Wildcard, they know exactly what's going on. They can even see that Alorum is going for this leash, whereas Dokla just gets his first hands on that wave. Gonna have to find out if there will be that huge bot lane scuffle going on, but I mean, Griffin's gonna go for this Krug camp instead, so potentially going to be a full clear or just sticking around on the top side of the map on this Gragas.
If Winston goes for a 3-camp clear, he's going to be able to beat Griffin to the punch over on the bottom side of the map if he wants to contest for any of the camps in the blue side jungle. And like we said before, Xin Zhao, stronger in the 1v1 against Gragas early on. He's going to need some priority, though, from his mid lane and his bottom lane, which are going into the favor of Zeus right now.
We have seen in the past some traditional Gragas clears where you go for your full red side and then you recall to pick up your Predator boots to have a really extra oomph on that Scuttle Crab fight. So maybe that's what Griffin is going for right here. As of right now, we're still waiting. He's going to be clearing away the Raptor camp. Nope, not going to go for the recall quite yet. Does barely kill that one with the dot.
He's got it. He's calculated. He's a former LCS pro. As Griffin's feeling A-OK on one of his most comfortable champions in his entire career, right? Keep in mind that he is a tenured Gragas player. A tenured player that we have now in Proving Grounds. And as you teased earlier, right, they feel like they need to prove their worth. They need to prove again. They deserve to be playing at that next level. They've done it throughout the tournament, but need to step up once again here to try and push this game to a Game 5. As both junglers look poised to go towards that bot crab smacks.
Griffin's already there. He's got the body slam. He's going to be able to take that
Winston's
one
trading.
right away. Winston knows he's going to skip out on the Krugs and just go straight for that top side, but once he gets there, he's going to find that there's not a whole lot left to do other than gank. So for this Xin Zhao, if he can find that mark in top lane or mid lane, maybe we get to see the first blood occur, but might just be a recall as well.
Yeah, and this is somewhat actually a doomed lane state for Alorum, who is going to intelligently drop his trinket, as he does have a wave that's pushing too far up, but now Winston might be looking for the first gank of the game in the top lane.
We already
Flashed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, trade of flashes.
The flashes already came out, but I guess we're going to see some action onto the bottom side of the map here. No summoners burned between both of the bot laners, as Winston going to get interrupted on the recall. He's going to get some chip damage down onto Alorum, but the wave, as you already pointed out, Cubby, it is kind of doomed for Alorum, and we're going to have to see how he uses the teleport and if Winston wants to stick around. There is a ward on the bush.
So he will probably TP back to the turret so it doesn't get ganked again, but that stoppage of the recall, it does buy time for Griffin as he sees Xin Zhao base on the ward and decides to TP back into the lane and finish up this shove. As Alorum, someone that the rest of Zeus has spoken so highly of, they've almost joked, like, you know, when you have a team with Alorum, Griffin, and Tuesday, do you even really need a coach, just given all the experience that they have? Of course, Draxler being their coach, adding to the experience of this roster. But Alorum, in these games, he has the most experience in going up against someone that he used to scrim against inside the in-houses for Optic in Dokla. They innovated picks together. Remember that York that we saw that year in LCS? That came from these two. So this duo very familiar with each other. And Alorum, in a losing matchup, needs to get the best of his former teammate for Zeus to move on in this series.
Got the push in on that wave, but still going to be down quite heavily thanks to that early pressure from Winston. Like I was saying before, as this Xin Zhao up in that top side, there's really not a lot else for him to do, so making the best use of that time is going to be very valuable for Winston. As now we look across the map, there is going to be a roam around from Daption, maybe looking to find some more skirmishes, or maybe just going for this Drake.
Bradley did hit 6 first in that lane, but because of the recalls, because Arrow's recalling second in the bottom lane, Tuesday does have the option to base and TP back to this lane to try and get priority, as Bradley most likely shoving in this wave trying to get the crash to get a recall, but is still looking. Oh, he lands it!
Does he actually go?
Does
He's
he
going to
take
take
it?
it, but Griffin is there to try to interrupt it. The Sand United Shield is going to be got first blood, but the explosive charge trades one back.
And this is something...
Shen Shield.
Yeah, the Shen Shield was enough, and this is something that Bradley is specifically practiced upon, because think back to his experience with Bethany. Their top laner, Sulora, is a Shen one-trick, and that is what Bethany was playing for the majority of CLoL, was blind pick Shen, so he's extra comfortable with this, as now Raheen, he's thrown off his game.
He doesn't have
TP's coming down to save him.
Either teleports are coming in, but he's going to get whittled to a crisp. Daption will pick up that one. Tuesday is teleporting in, but it's a 1-on-4. Can they even trade one back onto Arrow? But Daption is there to keep him in his place, and Arrow, I don't know how he was still able to get it, but the gun's allowing him to even pick it up.
Daption is just so sick on this Thresh. We're seeing why it was banned in the first few games. We're seeing why this duo has been picked yet again. First pick Thresh in the past 2 games in the Challengers Uprising Finals. That's some confidence here from Daption. They're going to need some more of it, though.
Arrow doesn't have summoners, but there is a Winston on the Xin Zhao. We already talked about Gragas against the Xin Zhao in the long run. Winston going to flash in to guarantee the knockup, but explosive cast right into the thick of the fray. Whoa, Griffin with the turnaround. Bradley rotating on over. Tuesday's not here to match it, but they're favoring their chances here. Raheen has already come back from base after the respawn. Ignite is ticking down on Daption, but a little bit of the shield from the Dark Passage will keep him alive.
And the fact that Griffin hit 6 saves the play for Zeus and possibly keeps them in this game, Smacks, as they're going to crash that wave and potentially look at the Dragon, as Alorum might be forced to utilize his ultimate to clear out the top wave as we slow down. The fact that Zeus was able to answer that so important, as Tuesday knows his limits.
Bradley has ultimate here. Might still not be out of the woods, but speaking of being out of the woods, Alorum is so low underneath this turret. Winston's on the way.
Yep.
He has to ult the wave.
What?
He missed.
What? Oh no, Alorum, game 4, backs against the wall, and Dokla is going to get the better of him, even Winston being there just to make sure that they secure the kill onto Alorum. on one of his most practiced champs right now. You can see the pressure is getting to Zeus Gaming right now. Down 1,000 gold. Alorum down 10 CS, probably more after this wave gets pushed in.
And if you are Zeus, you need to regroup and think about what you're able to do in this game. As Zeus, they see the opportunity. Yes, they're behind, but they're the first to the play for the Rift Herald. As past the 8-minute mark, they are sending their bot lane top and going for the Australian lanes, but they spot Winston. They aren't able to do this. They're going to have to pick up the wave in the top lane. As, I mean, if you lane swap as Wildcard Red, you can just put Shen in the bottom lane and have a members advantage to top as no one has TP with the Stand United. I would not be surprised Wildcard Red base and go for that option.
Not quite going to do it yet, though. Dokla still making his way up to the top lane. And I personally like this as well, Cubby, because you can already see that Arrow is up so tremendously on CS. He's already was able to pick up those kills in the lane. They just want to make sure that that advantage can continue to spread. But I say that, and they're coming up and making this a 5-man play. It is going to be Alorum finding some solo experience, finding some potentially solo platings down there, too. This might have just been a misstep, as they are going to get the Rift Herald, but missing out on some minions across the board.
Rift Herald going to be secured here by Wildcard Red. The lane swap that came in from Zeus is matched by their opponents here. Alorum getting some time to farm solo and catch up back on CS and XP, whereas Raheen and Rhino had somewhat of a freeze, getting some CS back in their pockets as well. But so far across the board, apart from Griffin, everyone for Wildcard Red is slightly ahead in the CS department, save for mid lane as well.
And we're gonna have to see if Zeus can find one of these big plays as the game goes on, which is so difficult against the Shen. Is Bradley in trouble?
The stealth.
Oh, Bradley is avoided all three members in the Shroud. Griffin was trying to predict with the body slam, the little preemptive. Bradley will be able to make it out.
Stealth on a Kali is just so obnoxious for Zeus to have to deal with. You can look across the board. Everything that they had available to them is point click. They can't do anything to get Bradley out of there. Griffin is here now to try to have that extra displacement, but underneath the turret, Bradley is going to stay alive. And still on those Australian lanes, like you were saying, Cubby, there's still top laners bot, bot laners top. Even after that Rift Herald was taken by Wildcard, we still don't know quite where it's going to land, but with these lane states still continuing, you can see Arrow, his lead is continuing to grow. It's going to hit that 1,000 mark that we keep on seeing.
And this is so difficult for Zeus, because in this game state, yes, they have Alorum who can TP to a play, but that's the only way they can answer a Stand United. And the fact that Dokla has Stand United and Wildcard Red are just matching, as it looks like they're actually trying to get out of the lane state and get Arrow into a 2v1 so they can funnel more gold onto their Aphelios. As Dokla is able to crash, he's able to reset. This is just up-tempo plays coming out from Wildcard Red, as the fact that they are dictating the map, they are basing first and having first say is so key for them in their success to funnel Arrow.
You can see Zeus are looking to try and proactively do something about this Kali in the mid lane, because every single time it has been extremely difficult. They dedicated 3 members as Daption finds a straight hook on the Tuesday, cancels the rocket jump with the flay. Daption and Winston making it work.
Daption, this guy is absolutely smurfing it in this game. This is the
Action
player
Daption's
who
back.
in the interview yesterday said that he felt like he was the weak link on the team. Come on, Daption, you cannot say something like that and then have this performance in the finals. This could be the last game of Cup.
And they're snowballing this into more as Winston has Shelly, and they're looking to target Alorum, who has to ult the wave once again.
Gets a knock-up down onto Arrow. Daption will land the flay and the death sentence.
It's not an easy dive.
Trying to buy enough time, though, but the turret aggro has been juggled successfully for Wildcard Red.
Yet another play here set up by the crowd control of the Xin Zhao and the Thresh. Winston and Daption are just all over the map in this one, and who gets the benefit? Who gets all the glory? It's Arrow. Every single time he's taking down all these plates in the bottom lane. They're setting up for the second Drake of the game. The lead continues to grow, and it's feeling more and more like Wildcard are going to be your champions.
But Zeus, they have to answer. They feel like they have to attack the Shen, but they're not able to. They don't feel confident enough to go for the plays on these solo laners of Wildcard Red, just leading to wins across the rift for Wildcard Red on this blue side, as they are looking to, instead of taking the bot lane turret from themselves, looking to go for this dragon, but they did have to use some cooldowns for that dive. This could be an opener for Rhino.
Dredge line lands onto Winston. Explosive cast isolates Winston out. Stand United is going to come in, and now they're going to look for the re-engage. Alorum doesn't have Call of the Forge God, so he can't really provide anything in this fight as Dokla flashes, trying to rout off Griffin. Flashing over the blue buff wall will try to buy some distance away from the members of Wildcard Red. Now Raheen opening up the curtain. Going to look for some bullets. Trying to slow down the members, but Dokla, he's so damn tanky. He's fine tanking all of them, as now Wildcard Red, they want to position around this dragon here. No ultimates from Griffin, no ultimates from Raheen or Pocket Rhino. It's only Buster Shot and Alarm still waiting on this Call of the Forge God. This is going to be such a massive team fight here, as this will set and determine the pace for the mid-game. Griffin is able to walk in, steals the dragon away. Pocket Rhino landing himself onto Arrow, but who is there to follow up? No one. Arrow's gonna be just fine. And Zeus, they're falling by the wayside, and Alarm is the only member left standing, as Bradley will look to push him out, potentially run him down. Doesn't have enough damage, but Wildcard Red are set to take home the series.
Alorum is a little bit too tanky for the full 5-for-0 ace, and they do end up giving over the Drake to Zeus. But every single other kill on this fight was all things Wildcard. Watch Bradley on the flank. He's playing so reserved with his ultimate. He's able to kill Raheen without it completely, and then he flash ults onto Tuesday, knocking him out and pushing Alorum outside of this fight yet again. The Call of the Forge God just was not available quite yet. They don't have their big team fight power, and it is just going to be yet another fight taken by Wildcard Red. That's 10 kills now.
Zeus just overcommit, trying to take that dragon away, but the fact that we're able to secure it, that may be the only solace in this game for Zeus, who down 6k gold. It feels like the only way they might be able to get back in this one is to play for the soul. But how could you win a fight against this comp down 6k gold? As the skirmish, there were some blanking health bars. Yeah, Zeus could have walked away with a couple more kills, but the fact of the matter is, it was a disastrous fight for Zeus. They find themselves critically behind, as this is a more than significant lead for Wildcard Red, looking to close out this series in 4.
Griffin gonna get this dive down on Dokla though, and they lock him down with enough CC. Tuesday, it's gonna take a while, but they finally knock down Dokla, and they're gonna pick up this turret on the back end of it as well.
A good counterplay for Zeus. Their only options to attack the Shen, right? Make sure that he's not able to stand United or TP to help any other plays where they would be at a member's disadvantage. So that is the right answer from Zeus, but they lose their mid tower for that. Or at least a lot of health on the mid turret, as Wildcard Red are not letting up on the pace and are now looking to dive Alorum.
Oh, Alorum has seen this outcome before. Hopefully he can change it this time, as he's already been killed twice right now. Wave is going to be crashing.
He knows.
He can see that people are on the Krugs, and Rhino is in hot pursuit.
Oh, but Death Sentence land on the Rhino. Do they actually want this? Rhino should be able to walk out scot-free. Arrow. Also using the Moonlight Vigil, it has separated Griffin and Rhino from being able to support Alarm. He's got a full health bar, though. Call of the Forge God will land. Daption is all by his lonesome. Beautiful knockup. It's a massive shutdown for Alarm onto the support for Wildcard Red.
Here comes Stand United.
His life over for the cause. Wildcard Red being able to get the chase. Look at Bradley. He's in the back line looking for the double, look for the triple. Quadra from Collegiate. Stack the damn deck for this mid laner as he comes in clutch.
And that play, it was telegraphed so hard by the side of Wildcard Red. They waited there for almost 2 waves to make it work, but they're so far ahead, they're still able to force with the Stand United on the Shen, and Bradley carries it through as he is 6-2-3 on one of his best champions, trying to turn himself from a good collegiate player into a Proving Grounds tournament champion.
Look at Bradley. He's over there on the left side of this fight. He's just trying to get the wave in, but it's him who ends up with the quadra kill off the backside of this one. Alorum has to use his ultimate just to survive the initial onslaught. They even started off with a nice pick onto Daption. But Zeus, they're just not ready for the collegiate superstar in the mid lane, man. Look at all of this damage.
And yeah, it's Bradley that cleans up, but it's the old duo from TSM Academy and Solofide that sets up the play for Bradley to knock down the pins, as Winston and Dokla perfectly in sync to take down Zeus. And I know that Bradley going into this series... Oh, I got to pause. Daption found another death sentence.
Oh, Lorem has got nowhere else to run. Dokla and Daption lock down Lorem once again, and the gold lead climbs to 8,000 here, Cubby.
And I know that talking with Bradley before this series, he said that obviously the experience, the fact that he's now on this team and the fact that he has these players around him to help him improve he felt a significant difference. But it's Bradley in Game 4, the game that can secure for Wildcard, that is the one stepping up as the casket goes wide. And Zeus seem to be falling apart. This dragon, their dragon stacking should be shut down here by Wildcard Red, who have full pry over the mid lane and bot-side river.
Just the last-ditch effort to try to find any pick on the map is completely mitigated by one swift lantern from Daption. Drake is going to be up in 3 seconds. This feels like the last form of anything that Zeus could possibly do in this game if they can get this Drake, but we already know the answer to this one, Cubby. They just can't do it. There's nobody even close to that pit. Their Drake stack has been stopped, and we already know what else has been stacked. It's the deck.
So we take a moment to breathe here, gentlemen. Wildcard Red with this 8,000 gold lead. They are on the cusp of closing out this series against Zeus, emerging as the first semi-pro team qualified for Proving Grounds later this summer. When we were looking at a majority of the teams going as the tournament favorites, even when we had our discussion over on the Proving Grounds podcast, talking about it's going to be Zeus, it's going to be Golden Guardians Academy, it's going to be Resolve, it's going to be Evil Geniuses Prodigies, it's going to be AoE. We talked about Wildcard as a favorite, but frankly, none of us were expecting them to potentially come out as number one here.
Rob, you're kind of stabbing me in the back on that podcast. I did have him as my number one, but going into the series, I did predict Zeus. I did have Zeus as the better team against Golden Guardians Academy, but Wildcard Red, they have different plans as they're starting to choke out the vision around Baron. They force Rhino's flash, and now this full setup. They're starting off the Baron. I think they're trying to draw out Alorum's TP, but keep in mind, this can be matched by Dokla as Wildcard Red trying to do the Baron dance now and turn their significant gold lead up 8k into a game-deciding buff as they try to lock down the Baron and knock down this series.
You see here from the items, so many of them are online, all this damage coming through. Even the Xin Zhao builds dealing damage, as you can see it onto Griffin. Solo mission from Winston, he might be killed though.
Oh, but the explosive cask barely goes wide, and Tuesday says, okay, we got to get out of this fight real quick, using the Buster Shot as well. That was 3 ultimates expended just to get the Stand United and the Crescent Guard out from Winston and Dokla. And Wildcard Red now have advantageous positioning in this jungle. It's going to be super difficult for Zeus to try and contest.
Still a nice disengage though.
Yeah. They did all survive, but Alorem had to leave the bottom lane. You can see that they just missed out on a couple of those minion waves down there. And now the Baron's going to be started up yet again. They haven't swept out the pit. You can see that there is a ward here for Zeus, so they have full vision. They have full awareness of this. Raheem going to be ulting, but they might just play into the trap.
Raheem tries to open up with the curtain call, but the rest of Wildcard Red say bet, and they take the fight to them as Bradley looking for the perfect execution, forcing the hand of Tuesday and his flash, as Zeus still haven't succeeded the Baron quite yet, but for Wildcard Red, they're still holding this massive lead in this game. Potential match point.
Buzz dealing a lot of damage to Alorem here. He's 2 levels up because Dokla has all the free time in the world to just go anywhere he pleases. He still has that Stand United when it comes off a cooldown, of course, but he's got the teleport here too. All of this pressure all across the map here for Wildcard Red. You can see, I mean, they just were able to start up Baron twice and didn't lose a single thing for it. So just waiting it out. It's going to be another turret taken by Dokla down here, extending that gold lead even further.
They did lose time though. And the fact that Zeus at this deficit is going even it is a decent sign for them, the fact that they are at least trying to hold on, as that's another turret knockdown. Nothing that's going to be too critical of the game, just more gold injections going over to the side of Wildcard Red. And Zeus, they've at least been mitigating the plays. The fact they are at an 8k gold deficit, they've been able to trade ultimates evenly. They have not had to burn the TP of Alorum that would prevent them from contesting in the side lane moving forward, which is very crucial at this point, given the fact that Baron is such a threat for Wildcard Red. There is some solace on the map if you are a Zeus fan. And if you are a Zeus fan, you need to take that solace and look at this Ocean Dragon, as if they are able to obtain it, that would put them at Ocean Soul Point. And they need the strongest soul that we have, arguably the strongest soul that we have in League, to overcome the deficit that they are in this game. As you can see, Wildcard Red, they are ditching their Baron plans and trying to shut down the comeback mechanic of Zeus, as they have shifted their power into the bot side river.
Outside river is where the next objective lies in wait. 20 seconds between now and the Drake spawning. I mean, Zeus they've been denied their third dragon, but it wouldn't hurt to find that one later on. You get to see the predictions.
Predictions looking like to be in shambles at the moment, as production just puts us all on full blast. It's completely warranted. It is completely warranted. The game is not over yet. It is a massive advantage, though, for Wildcard Red and the way that we have been prepping. It is only just a few more steps before Wildcard Red can close out the game, as Tuesday has been routed out. Perfect execution from Bradley lands. Buster shot interrupts the second cast, though.
Still dead.
But where is he going to go? He has nowhere to run. He will get locked down here by Daption. Bradley picking it up onto Tuesday. And now you look at the rest of the map. How can Zeus protect their base for the next 30 seconds?
Tuesday does have the teleport in 35 seconds, but that's 35 whole seconds. In that time, the Baron can be melted, and that's exactly what Wildcard Red are thinking right now. Back to the Baron they go. They still have Stand United. They still have full access to their entire team. There's a nice hook from Daption.
Explosive Cask lands. It disengages the fight and prevents them from the Baron, but that is a bad DP. Lauren has the flash over the wall. Raheen opens up with the curtain call, tries to slow down the opposition from being able to close in onto the members of Zeus Gaming, but it's not going to be enough here. Zeus do manage to get out. Wildcard Red still have advantage here.
They managed to get out, but they do get the TP of Alorum, which is crucial in terms of matching the Shen in the side lane moving forward. And so Wildcard Red, they don't take the big objective. Zeus hang on, but they do at least bleed out yet another summoner spell that will help them when they reset, get back out onto the map, and try and set that up once again. As this will be a game of push and pull, a little bit of tug of war between these two teams to see if Wildcard Red can get Zeus to overcommit to contest the Baron, and if Zeus can kind of play chicken and let that Baron chunk out Wildcard Red.
I gotta say, in this situation, if I'm the team with Arrow, I feel like I'm pretty fine with waiting, though. With the way that he has played in this series and the previous one on this very pick, on Aphelios, you already know that he's going to be a late-game teamfight menace. He's up 4k gold over Raheen. He's already got his third item completed. I feel like if they do get pushed to that late game situation, it's still going to be so difficult for Zeus at that point, even with all the scaling, even with the double marksman and the Ornn. Still have to be very worried. I mean, Alorum just hit level 13. He still hasn't upgraded any of the items other than his own.
And speaking of items, I know we don't try to harp on it too much, but when you look at the builds from Tuesday and Raheen just finished a Lord Dominic's Regards, but this is just a jam. I don't know how much damage he's going to be able to do against a Random Omen on Winston and Dokla. As Bradley and Winston, the two-man jungle mid duo, are able to just wipe and walk through Rhino and Griffin. Tuesday will be able to make it out alive. Raheen opening up the curtain call again, trying to catch out any stragglers with some straight damage here, but it's not going to be enough for Zeus. No jungler means that this Baron is free for the taking here.
This has been so methodical from Zeus as they just try and pick apart Wildcard Red. Their only option is to go for Dokla. Oh, no.
Tuesday, unfortunately, that wall is a little too thick for the rocket jump. He's going to still try to chase Dokla down. They know that they can't compete for the Baron, but they're going to try to find an advantage somewhere. But the pick, unfortunately, is not executed. And for Wildcard Red, with this Baron, with 13,000 gold in advantage here, this is where we should start seeing the closing out of this series here.
Let's find out if this Baron is going to be enough to crack an inhibitor open. It was over 10 minutes ago where Wildcard Red were able to take down their first inhibitor turret in that top lane. It's been a long time since they were able to burn down these structures, but the Baron is the exact objective that you need and you want to have when doing that. So you can see they're trying to get as powerful as they possibly can, teleporting up to this wave just to make sure the push is here, but the Predator sign above Bradley's head lets him know he might not be as safe as he thinks.
Winston finds Tuesday
Soos
once
are in
again.
trouble, though.
Griffin has been routed off, and Bradley finishes him off, gets the distance down onto Tuesday with the perfect execution, and takes him out as well. Wildcard Red eliminating the fabled jungle mid duo from Zeus, claiming themselves as the strongest ones in this entire Proving Ground split. But Winston and Bradley having shown up here, 5 members strong against 3. It is going to be up to Zeus if they can find a defense out of nothing, but with Pocket Rhino getting deleted off the map, Alorma Raheen, there's nothing that they can do except watch the base fall as Wildcard Red Academy teams beware, because the best semi-pro team is coming for... Whoa! Griffin, wait! A huge explosive cask? There's no way that they can end this game, right? They just have to auto the Nexus turrets a couple times, and a valiant attempt from Zeus to try and save the game, but Wildcard Red will emerge as the first team to enter and represent semi-pro at Proving Grounds.
And I know that Wildcard, they had an early exit in last Proving Grounds as they dropped close series against Dignitas and Immortals, but how poetic for this team as they are the first ones to enter into Proving Grounds, and also for Dokla and Winston, 2 players that qualified and were not able to participate because of their org. They find new homes, new solace in this org, and with the play